Hello and welcome to the Town Hall meeting. This is episode number 23. Today we're going to be talking about the PTR and the balance changes that were announced and that then were updated and all of that. So I got a great lineup yet again. Let's start at the top left. We got the Frenchman himself, the overperforming race user. It's Side. What's up, man?
Hey, nice to be back.
Welcome back. On the top right, we got Cruncher, the American human player, my brother. I'm counting on you to represent during this town hall. What's going on, Cruncher?
Hey, yep, thanks for having me on.
And at the bottom, it's the director, the designer of Balance himself, Remo Demo. What's up, man?
Doing good. Feels good to be back on the town hall, man. Looking forward to it.
In the bottom right, he's interrupting his, I don't know what you were playing, Magic or whatever, session to join us for some Night Elf complaining, I'm sure. What's going on, Star-Shaped?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Let's get right to it. So we're gonna go over the changes that were announced, the initial ones, and then the latest ones. And I think we're gonna mainly go on through the list of those that we'll be going through. Maybe we can have a quick mention of the stuff that was edited in between. But yeah, let me pull it up on screen. Content sharing. Boom. So actually, that was made by Neo. Well done, mates. So let's start with human. Peasant hit points increased from 220 to 230. Okay, first of all, I should mention that one of the things that was talked about during those PTR is that they wanted to help out human against Undead. Thank God. So like some of these changes are like supposed to cater towards that. So Spellbreaker armor reduced from 3 to 2. That was because the thing that was mentioned was human mirror. So to try and get that, maybe not have this meta with like mass Spellbreaker against mass Spellbreaker every game. Rifleman attack delay reduced from 1.4 to 1.35. So that's attack speed buff on Rifleman. I'm not sure why exactly. Mountain King Thunderclap damage reduced from 60, 115, 160 to 60, 100, 145. I think they were going to do a damage cap and then they removed the damage cap and then instead lower the damage per level on this. Sorceress slow movement speed reduced from 60 to 55%. Siege Engine tank experience bounty increased from 60 to 85. Castle research gold reduced from 360 to 320. Let's start with Remo, since he was the one who basically made these happen. Oh, actually, a lot of these were on your list, right? That you had made initially of stuff that you wanted. I think at least the castle price, right?
Yeah, some of them, definitely. I think Peasant HP is really nice. I talked about this before. I think it was a good development for the game with the economy getting strengthened. We saw that for Orc with reinforced defenses and for Undead with their numerous Acolyte buffs. We saw a lot more run-by, hit-and-run stuff in the past, and that can have a place in the game. I think it doesn't make for the most interesting of games, though, as a lot of that meta back then was about, run-bys and haunted goldmine kills, that kind of stuff. So I think strengthening the economy is a good way to go to make the game more enjoyable. At least that's how I see it. And Human was having a tough time with that. Definitely the most fragile of all the economies. So yeah, I agree with this change a lot. I think I agree with all of these changes. Spellbreakers, they seem a little concerning. I, as an Undead myself, had to say that, this might be a problem against Undead because oftentimes the breakers are the units that try to buy the time for the knights and all that stuff later on. But it's so annoying in Human Mirror, man. How many years of fucking breaker wars have we had? And also, very late game against Orc, it can be really annoying. I think most people agree that magic immune units shouldn't have stats good enough to allow for them to be masked because magic immune units are just kind of boring. Side and me, we lived through Undead Mirror with mass destroyers, and that was fucking so cancer. That's even worse than Breaker Mirror because they can't even attack each other. But yeah, in general, they should be supporting units, and I think that's doing a step in the right direction. Rifle damage increase. Todd, you say you don't see exactly why that should be. I think I can understand it kind of because
Human's garbage, so I guess you might as well try and help them a little.
There's some serious in air quotes nerfs coming to Human with the clap, with the slow, and with the breakers. So it seems like they should get some buffs as well at the same time. And rifles are units getting buffed, and rifles are very versatile, right? You can play them almost every matchup. with decent success, and I can't wait for those inner-fire rifles to come back, bro. How about you, man? Yeah, and tanks are cancer, so I like to see them getting nerfed. And yeah, castle, hopefully that's going to help with the human tier 3 transition, especially in the one-base kind of game. Yeah, breakers, I think that's the one thing we're all hoping to see fade away a little bit more. How do you guys as a human players see that? How much is this really going to help move away from breaker mirror, or are they still just so good that you still would have to go for them in human mirror?
Cruncher.
I personally don't think it's going to make too much of a difference for a few reasons. One is that typically in human mirror, you do a tier 2 expo, like you do one camp and you expo right away. If you do one base, you're going tier 3, your timing, it takes too long to get an army that can actually beat the tier 2 army. Tier 3 human just takes forever to come on. You need, so if you typically go like one Sanctum and Knights, and you need Morts as well. So you have to get Fractured and Morts. You gotta get 2 upgrades on your Knights to deal with the Breakers. You have to have a few Knights. You have to have Dispel to deal with the slow. You have to have like 2 to 3 Morts as well to deal with like the casters and getting kited. And all that just takes so long to get online that I don't think the Breaker armor is going to change too much for that. And on top of that, we also see is Blizzard and Clap being played as well versus Knights. So you just slow the army and then just keep on kiting. And there's just like too much counter to the human tier 3 that the tier 2 human can do with an expo. So I personally don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. But of course, we have to see what happens. Maybe there is a better timing with getting Knights out and you kill Breakers faster or something. But I just don't see, because usually it's not the Breakers that are the problem against a tier 3 army. It's the fact that you have economy advantage, you have Blizzard, you have Clap, and you have slow, and you can't really like dispel enough usually to deal with the Knights or to deal with the slow.
I think I completely agree. You could have put breaker armor from 3 to 0, and we still would see mass breaker in mirror. So this change to fix human mirror is like almost entirely useless. I want to add that I could be wrong. Like there is a chance we start seeing castle and then suddenly knights are taking over, but I sincerely doubt it. But breakers, I agree with the fact that they were pretty strong. Like it feels like when you reach a really high amount of breakers against orc, it can be pretty obnoxious as well. Against elf, like when you're playing against bears and you have like breaker and sorceress, like it feels like the bears are just trash against everything anyway. So I don't really mind too much to see like a nerf there. And who knows, yeah, maybe in human mirror it's gonna change something. All right, Side, you want to go next about all of these changes and what you think about them?
Yeah, I think they are pretty good overall, especially Peasant HP buff. I'm not really sure about the Rifleman, if it's gonna, I mean, for sure, for Undead versus Human, it's not gonna change much, I guess, but maybe in other matchups. I like the Siege Tank nerf, of course, because recently I've been playing versus tanks. And I don't think it's gonna change that much, unless it's a long game, but I don't know, the past few games that I played versus tank were pretty rough and I had a pretty bad experience, so maybe I'm a bit triggered there. But yeah, overall, I think these changes are in a good direction. They should help at least a little bit in the Undead versus Human matchup, because it's all about the early game most of the time and the tier 3 timing, of course. But the Undead nerf is gonna maybe help as well, or at least neutral Euro nerf.
Yeah, I saw
So,
you
yeah.
throw against Blade on Twisted Meadows.
Oh, I did?
Against
You
the
mean the
tanks.
pit? Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Cruncher, I just want to go back to you briefly. Like human against undead, do you feel like we haven't gone over the undead changes yet, but do you feel like these human changes, they're a good start to start helping against undead?
Maybe the peasant HP. Like I don't see the Rifleman being too useful. I know they're like I think this week or last week we actually saw Sock beat somebody on LR, like doing the rifle, tier 2 rifle. Like he at Fast Expo win rifles and win tier 3. But typically you don't see it just because the Riflemen don't scale that well. And once hero levels keep increasing, they just get worse and worse. They get kited. You can't catch up, and their DPS just isn't just enough. You need like knights and stuff as well. So for like human versus undead with the rifles, maybe like a tier 2 expo going like the 2 racks rifles might be a bit stronger. But overall, I don't think Riflemen are good versus undead at all and really shouldn't be made unless you're desperate. The peasant HP, I can see that helping when you fast expo. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much it would help because typically a 10 HP is one skeleton hit, or even less than one skeleton hit because of the armor difference. It'll definitely help some. That's the biggest change I think that'll help somewhat. Although versus like Crypt Lord, I don't think it's really going to matter too much because they usually don't come to kill your expo. It's usually played a bit differently. But versus DK, I definitely say helping some. The Spellbreaker armor, you only really see a few breakers versus Undead usually, and typically you don't really want too many breakers versus Undead because when they add A-bombs, they destroy them, and Spellbreakers are just like a completely weaker version of a Knight, so you really don't want to waste gold on it. I've seen some humans like completely skip the Sanctum as well and just go 2 Rex Knights or whatever, or add a few towers and just skip breakers or add like 1. Thunderclap wasn't used too much versus Undead. You can use it, but the thing is, if you're using clap, you don't have bolts as much, so you have less stunning heroes, catching units. So the clap, I don't think is too big of a difference versus Undead. The slow is a small nerf, but I don't think it's too much versus Undead. The siege tank thing is interesting because I agree that they're just bad for the game. I think watching like units kill buildings only is stupid. I don't think it's fun to watch or fun to play. Like as a human, it's kind of fun to play once in a while, but I definitely think as a viewer or as the other player, it's terrible to play and watch. So I think it's fine to nerf that aspect of them. But I know like one thing I saw was when they were somebody translated some of the Pro Asians commentary on the tanks, and they said that tanks will never be used. I think it was like TH, Fly, and Ted or something, but their place in the game doesn't really exist too much because the anti-air. Yeah, I'm talking about solo only, by the way, not FFA or something. But like the anti-air is just like too slow for the most part. You see them rarely on maybe TS or something, but their purpose in the game doesn't really exist too much besides killing buildings. So I don't even know what to do with tanks, honestly. And then the Castle Gold research. If one base becomes a strat, it can be helpful, but typically when you fast expo, you have excess gold anyway. It's usually the lumber that's holding you back. So like versus Undead, when they go DK or something, or even Crypt Lord fast expo, it'll help a bit, but like 40 gold, a one-time spend at 40 gold doesn't really do much for 2 base. So I don't think that's going to affect too much versus Undead.
If I could jump in because you mentioned TH and Infi, I also saw that translations on Gornland Harbor, the initial reactions that they posted. I don't know if you saw that one, but there was one statement by TH that I found really interesting. He was kind of worried about some of the human nerfs, but about rifles, he said he's worried about this one because that could again make them too strong. That's a pretty strong statement, right, for Rifleman? Because effectively, this is only like 3.4% damage or something.
Yeah. Isn't that how they were before anyway, right? Because that was...
This is how we had them in the old patch when everyone was playing
I mean,
rifles.
were they too strong before?
I mean, Starshape certainly thinks so.
I don't know about versus Undead, though.
Yeah. Against...
Like versus Orc and Elf, you would see rifles. Like, I think this will make humans play more rifles against Orc in general. I'm not sure how strong or whatever that's going to be, but versus Undead, like, I don't know. Like, even before, I didn't really see too many humans going rifles versus Undead, like, before the patch when they were still 1.35. But maybe he was talking about, like, versus Elf or Orc.
Yeah. Starshape, what do you think?
I think the rifle change might just be one of those things where, like Remo mentioned, like if you do a bunch of nerfs, then you got to give them something. So let's just give them, a slightly better rifleman. They kind of did the same thing with Chims. Like let's remove the friendly fire as some kind of way to make up for the nerfs. I think that's what that stems from. But I'm also a bit worried about the rifle change. Anything that makes the rifle push stronger is scary as Night Elf. It's already such a thick timing. It's difficult to hold. We get slightly better bears, slightly better rifles. It's hard to say. But I'd say overall, all of these changes are at an appropriate level, which I feel like some of the changes they make are so big, but all of these human changes that we're talking about now, they're kind of the right level, I think, for experimenting on a PTR. So it's not like we buffed damage by 50, It's like we'll add 10 HP, we'll remove 1 armor. I think this is a good level. I think this is what they should aim for in the future as well.
I didn't even say this, but I feel like this clap change is quite big and too big of a nerf. Don't you guys feel that way? Because it looks pretty
I
big on
agree.
paper. Minus 15 damage on level 2, that's a lot, right?
I disagree. I don't think it changes anything. It's like nerfing War Stomp by removing damage. Like the power of Thunderclap isn't the damage; it's the fact that it cripples every unit around you, around the Mountain King. If you have like Clap Blizzard, for example, the DPS is coming from Blizzard, not from Clap. So as long as it's crippling every unit around the Mountain King, it's going to be a problem.
Really?
I think.
You think
Yeah,
so?
yeah. I don't think
I
the
think they
damage
should
matters.
remove the cripple and increase the damage then.
So
But
you're saying
that's-
if clap did 0 damage, it would still be as good?
No, okay, not 0. That's an extreme. But if you removed 15 damage or something, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I don't think. I mean, it makes it better. Like if you're going mass archers or mass casters, like something like that. I guess it's more noticeable. But in general, the power in Thunderclap, I think, is the stun or the semi-stun, whatever you want to call it.
I think Clap was one of the most powerful spells in the game, if not the most at this point. So I'm happy to see it changed. I don't know if the numbers are right, but it makes me worry a little bit, right? Because if you take one of the best things away from a race, then obviously it might be tougher without it. It feels like you would need to buff maybe some of the other things, usually the units if you nerf one of the heroes. So I'm interested to try it out. I feel like it's pretty early to talk about this like decisively, but yeah, it could turn out that it was too big a nerf. It could turn out that it was not enough a nerf, since they removed the cap.
That's
I
the problem.
think-
Cap, I think.
Well, I think so. I know typically for myself, like versus Orc, I think it's the biggest difference because 2 reasons. One, you play Breakers and you play Clap, and like 85% of your damage comes from the Clap. That's all you rely on, really. Your army is there just to keep the TC away from your casters. Your Breakers don't really deal with the Grunts or the Kodas at all. It's all down to the Clap, which I think will make a huge difference. And like right now, I think the matchup versus Human versus Orc is pretty balanced at the moment. I'd say for the most part, just looking at like the stats and different champions and how the pros are playing versus each other. So I think nerfing the Breakers, which you have to mask to deal with the TC, and then nerfing the Clap as well, which is how you deal with the army. And then the slow as well. It's like 3 direct nerfs to Human versus Orc, which will make playing this Breaker MK Clap thing much weaker. And what I don't know if you guys agree that it seems pretty balanced, but I think it's much to make like rifle all-ins way more common in the future.
Like what kind exactly?
I like the Chimiko like 2 farm tech rifle push.
Yeah.
Because Breakers are losing. I mean, I think it's like losing 3 to 2 armor. I think is like 7% more damage taken per Breaker or something like that. So that's quite a bit of difference too, because you have Grunts hitting on them the entire time. So your front line's going to fall much faster. Your damage on their army is less, and then slow is also less effective when you have it.
But do we want to? I mean, one of the questions I think should be asked is like, how do we want the games to be played? And I think Human relying so much on one spell on Thunderclap to like carry them all the way, it's not fun. It's not very interactive. It's very difficult to deal with. Like the Mountain King is there. He's very tanky. He's always in the center. You can't really play around Thunderclap. I don't think it should be like the focus of Human. I think it's a pretty boring spell. Let's go back to good old Bolt and the Bash.
Yeah, well, I agree. Like having a hero that's too strong, I think is just bad for the game in general.
Yeah.
Like one hero shouldn't dictate the entire game or shouldn't be your entire army because you still have 70 food of your army that's sitting around. So I agree that like having a hero destroy the game is bad. But like if you go Bolt Bash, for example, you're never going to beat an Orc who's like if you're going like.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm not saying that you could now. I'm just saying that if they make balance changes in the future, maybe they should consider more trying to diversify the strategies and maybe not make them rely on that one spell. I agree that right now you can't.
It's very hard already to try and balance the game as it is. Like if you add this factor of like let's try and make the game more interesting by introducing the zeros or the units, this makes it even more complicated. Like it's already incredibly hard. Like imagine if Blizzard's goal right now was to not care about that aspect of what's fun and what's not fun, but try to make the game as balanced as possible. That's already crazy hard. But now they are trying to also kind of pick, what's going to be used or what's going to be less used and stuff. Like they try to make a lot of the units that weren't used in the past be more usable, like necromancers and stuff like that. So yeah, that complicates everything for sure. But it feels like I think most people are happy to see some more variety. But me as somebody who plays and like I stream a lot, so I take the game pretty seriously. Like there is for sure a balance where like I'm happy to play some other stuff that I haven't in the past, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes it gets out of control. You know, like when I face like I don't know Undead Expo with Mass Necros, I just don't feel it's like super interesting for me. And not only is that really strong, it's also I don't know just not necessarily fun to play. And if I look at Undead, you know, like there is the spectator's standpoint, right, with the Crypt Lord, where if you've watched 10 years of Death Knight versus Death Knight, or like I guess in the past it was Lich against Lich with Gargoyles versus Gargoyles, it can seem a little boring. Kind of like Breaker against Breaker right now, or Bear against Bear in Night of Mirror. So we're seeing a lot of more variety, but if I look at Undead now, I don't know. As a spectator, I don't really enjoy watching Crypt Lord against Crypt Lord, Tier 1 Mazgul.
Yeah.
It seems a little stupid to me, but I guess everybody has like a different opinion on that. So do you guys think it should be made a priority as well to make the game more interesting with like changing units like this, or do you think it's better to focus on actual balance with the actual meta?
I want to just say one thing, which is I don't understand how they choose the things that they change. Like a lot of the patch notes in the past have been, for example, like, oh, Beastmaster is underused, so we buffed the bear. But I mean, a lot of heroes are underused, a lot of strategies are underused, a lot of units are underused. So just saying that something is underused doesn't really cut it for me. I think there has to be some kind of, why is something fun to play? Why do we want to see more of a Beastmaster, for example? And I don't think they've been very clear with that in the past. And I think that's something that's should be more central. Like just saying that something's underused and that's why you buffed it doesn't make sense because a lot of things are underused, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the game developer view, though. Like, there's a certain amount of tools in the game, like a certain amount of heroes and units, and you want to see all of them to a certain extent. Not an even split between everything, but you want to see all of them a little bit. I think that's pretty clearly what pretty much every game developer would want. But there's also the philosophical question of, do we want to try to push the meta in a certain way? I've been very vocal about this, that I think it should be, and that might be, I don't know, maybe selfish reasons of mine. I think certain strats are super dumb, like tower push meta. I lived through that for years in 2010. I thought that was horribly stupid. Liquid Fire Bats is dumb. It's a weak strategy, but it's dumb. Tanks are dumb. Mass Necro pushes are dumb. And I've been very vocal about this, but not everyone necessarily sees it the same way. And how does Blizzard see it? Do they think, well, it's part of the game? These lame strategies, should they be part of the game or should they not be part of the game? And there's not a very clear answer to give there. To me personally, there is. But, it's, I guess if you want to see it that way, it takes away some strategic variety. Mass tanks is one certain strategy of the game. Getting flooded with 80 supply tanks in your base with 3 Zeppelins dropping in is a unique aspect of the game. Not one I personally enjoy, but yeah, I don't know what the stance is that Blizzard should take there. I have my own personal opinion, but it's a philosophical question at the end of the day, I guess.
Side?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with Remo. I think some strategies are definitely not very interesting to play, nor to play against, nor to watch. And especially what you said, Todd, about like Crypt Lord versus Crypt Lord. It's really stupid. I don't like the Crypt Lord mirror. So the way Blizzard has been doing changes, I don't think. I mean, on the one hand, it's pretty good because it promotes diversity in strategies, which I really like because personally I'm really bored with playing DK Fiend in all matchups. So I like being able to play different strategies. But the way they did it with Triplord was like Triplord just became too strong. So it became basically almost the only viable strategy. Because if you didn't go Triplord in mirror, then you would basically lose because it was just too strong, and that's definitely not the right approach. So
Yeah.
on one hand, I really like buffing different strategies like Crypt Lord, but they should do it like maybe not as strong. Yeah, basically.
Cruncher?
I think it's good to have a mix of both because however you want the meta to be, if you just have the same strat played for years, it's incredibly boring. I find it stale. I think change is good. I think utilizing underused heroes is good because it adds diversity for the players, for the viewers. You see new strats come about. We see Beastmaster versus Human now. We saw a bit versus Undead with Moon doing it, but it seems bad, I guess. I think just seeing the same, DK versus AM or Blade Master versus DH or whatever it is, is boring over time. So I think it's good, but they also have to have a goal in mind. It can't just be like, yeah, well, we'll just buff this and nerf that just randomly. I definitely think there has to be a focus they're going for when they're buffing underused heroes or units.
All right, let's. Sorry.
I just want to add. I think there's a bit of like impatience as well whenever changes are made, because I remember like when all the keeper changes were made first, and everyone hated it on the keeper. Like for years and years, we had humans going Archmage every game, Undeads going Death Knight every game, every matchup, Blade Master every matchup, Demon Hunter every matchup, and then as soon as people went keeper all the time, then everyone complained that, oh, Night Elf is only going keeper. That's so stupid.
I don't think
So-
that's what they were complaining about.
Among other
Night
things, but
Elves can go keeper all they want right now. I'll be happy almost like to face them, but I think it was the fact that they had one spell that executed a unit.
True.
Use that spell and then it said finish him, and then he cut his head like in Mortal Kombat. So yeah, I think that's what people didn't like.
yeah, that's
If there
fair.
is one spell to ruin your experience by being too strong, it's Entangle. Like, if
Yeah.
Water Elementals are too strong, then they don't just kill your whole army in 30 seconds and you want to kill yourself because they're just like some summons running around.
Yeah, I'll defend Keeper to my grave. I think he's a unique hero. He's the only hero in the game that's like super powerful early on and then completely useless in the late game. It's a very unique hero. I don't think I shouldn't hate on him.
Yeah,
And
I
he probably
agree.
takes a lot of skill to play as well. It's one of the most difficult heroes to play, and one of the most difficult races. So
Yeah, I think OC agrees with that too.
Oh my god,
he should be on the
Very
show.
skillful.
what the fuck?
But I think the problem with Keeper though is that it's kind of annoying to play against because you can't go out on the map. Like I see orcs mostly, like you can't get your grunts out on the map, so it's just a hero roaming the map, which I think is kind of boring. And then same for humans. Sometimes you like if you go on the map, you just get entangled and your footman die, and there's no counterplay. I think that's just kind of boring to play and to watch.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, let's start with Orc. Blade Master, Mirror Image mana cost decreased from 100 to 80. Warstomp stun duration against heroes decreased from 2, 3, 4 to 2, 2.5, and 3. I think that was changed a little bit from the first one
Yeah.
that they had announced as
Mhm.
well, where it was pretty
Changed a lot.
extreme. The initial like Warstomp nerf and Wisp Detonate nerf was like insane. It was like halved almost for Wisp it was. So Shockwave mana cost reduced from 100 to 90. What's up, Krolu? Great Hall supply granted increased from 10 to 11. So I think Remo, you were one of the guys that suggested at least the Great Hall. I don't know which other ones, but can you go over these quickly and what do you think?
Yeah, the Great Hall change was my idea. Well, mine and Carson. We talked about this in Discord. Mainly spawned from the Night Elf versus Orc matchup, where it's absolutely paramount for the Orc to follow the Keeper around, half scouting, prevent his leveling, because if the Keeper gets level 3, your whole game is ruined, everything dies, the game is over, complete disaster. And in general, I think even beyond that matchup, it's a bit weird that Orc is the only race who can't scout early. In theory, they can. In theory, they can play 2-burrow tech. They can maybe skip the barracks. They can go out for a peon scout. But really, if you want to stay competitive in a close game, you want to go 1-burrow tech with Grunt Blade Master. And if you do that, you can't scout. And that's strange because Undead can scout with Acolyte early. Human can scout with Footman early, or if they're really desperate, maybe Peasant, but normally it's Footman early. And of course, Night Elf with the Wisp. So I think adding that option in for Orc is very beneficial to the game. It's more information for you. Of course, it's a straight up buff. And it's not just in the one matchup where we want to see it against Night Elf. It's straight across the board. So I think it's a pretty elegant change that could help a lot, but it could also turn out to be too strong. I think some testing will be required there. That one supply may not look like much, but it may have a big impact. We'll see how that goes, especially when Lin and Fly put their masterful hands on it and craft the perfect builds. In the end, I guess it may save you some gold with being able to delay the 3rd burrow for the 3 grunts plus Shadowhunter tier 2 follow-up. If that is a little bit too much economy for the Orc, maybe shop items should be targeted, right? Because Orc always relies on the shop items. And I think Speed Scroll has been in discussion about this for a long time. Todd, I believe you have been talking about that before.
I talk
So
about a
maybe
lot
if
of
this
things.
if this is too good, maybe increase Speed Scroll cost by a bit to 65. I don't know. But I think it's really necessary because being forced to play a 1 borrow tech if you want to stay competitive and then not being able to scout for like 3 minutes kind of sucks. So I think this is a good change, but again, with the caveat that maybe it's too strong. We'll have to keep an eye on that. As to mirror image, I love mirror image. It's a very unique ability. I think it's super cool. It gives orcs also the difficult decision. Do I want to go for utility play in mirror image, or do I just want to go full smork, just all damage with windwalk and crit? I love that change, and I think it should be in no ways in any kind too overpowering in the other matchups. Like against Undead and Human, you probably still will never see it. Although perhaps you might with this change, which is cool, but it shouldn't be too good. But against Night Elf, it could help a lot. Yeah, the TC stomp duration against heroes, it's insane that it was so strong for so long. I think this is a proper spot for it to be reined in. And the Shockwave, understandable that it's getting buffed. It's like one of the weaker spells in the game. It does worry me a little bit that we're going to see a lot of Raider, hit and run, never fight, run across the map. Some humans call their orc opponents rats in latter games. We've seen that before. So I'm a little concerned about that. But in general, I like these changes a lot.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have an orc on the show, but I feel like we got a better chance to get Robert Downey Jr. up there before we get any of these orcs to join us. So we'll keep trying for next time, I guess. Who knows? Maybe one of them will finally volunteer. Side, I know you play against orc quite a bit, obviously, and we also play orc sometimes in FFA or like in some of your games. What do you think about these?
Well, I cannot really comment about the other matchups except Orc versus Undead. And of course, here the mirror image, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be impactful. I think Ruby tried a few times to play a mirror image first versus Undead, but without too much success. But that might be of some help. The War Stomp nerf, though, it's really, really good for me. I mean, I've been losing many games because of TC, especially when he gets level 5. I think it was definitely insane. The 4-second stun was just way too good in my opinion. So that's definitely a very good change. They like the way they did it at first was just too big of a nerf, but this one, like the 2.5 and 3 seconds, I think that's really good numbers. So pretty happy about that. The Shockwave mana reduction. Yeah, I mean, maybe it could help because we've seen more dots. So at least in Orc versus Night Elf. Against Undead, though, I mean, it's not often used, so I'm not quite sure if it's going to be impactful. But as Remo said, it's probably one of the weaker spells in the game, so that's a good change. And the Great Old Supply, yeah, I think there were some concerns about the double bureau to tier 3, like with Shadowhunter and a few grunts. 3 grunts, I think, and Blendmaster, Shadowhunter, and taking straight to tier 3 with skipping the third bureau. I think Remo mentioned. That could be maybe a bit scary, but I think, yeah, we cannot say for sure. So I guess we'll have to try and see how it goes.
Cruncher, you seem to meet Hitman in the finals of every tournament. That's NA. So, what do you think about these, and in particular the War Stomp stun duration, since you've been enjoying a lot of these in your matches?
I think the stomp change for human versus orc doesn't matter too much because typically the TC wants to focus or stomp the rifles and the casters. Obviously, it's going to reduce the heroes, so your heroes free a little faster. But typically, I don't think it's going to affect the matchup too much overall. Late game, I guess late game, once TC is level 5, it will, because typically that's when Orc really just focuses heroes. So it's going to help a little bit, but typically you have an invul, you have HP pots. So overall, I don't think it'll affect the matchup for human too much with that. They don't go Blade Master. The Shockwave thing, Remo mentioned that we might see, I think it was Remo said, might see more Raider lame and stuff. I think that's something too is like, we're nerfing all these strats that are relying on base laming, but like the Raiders are still there, Pillage is still there, and I don't know, like if we're going to be nerfing tanks, if we're nerfing other things that kill bases, like nerfing the Raider lane too should also be something we look at, because if you're going to say, well, tanks are boring to play and boring to watch and stuff, then so is like just Raider laming over and over with like tier 2 fortified towers and stuff. And with Shockwave, you already see it sometimes with like the Shockwave, they retrain just like run and kill your buildings and TP out. So I think this will make it a little more common, but 10 mana for human versus orc, I don't think they would go Shockwave either way usually. So, but I definitely think that like the Raider Lightning thing should be like reduced or nerfed somewhat.
Any idea how?
Probably just reducing like the amount of money you get from pillage, or reducing. I don't know, like if you reduce the siege damage on raiders, or reduce how much gold you get from pillage or something. But it's the same thing as like when you see human just mass tanked versus undead or elf. It's the same idea, the same concept, just with orc doing it versus other races. We saw it too with like Lin versus Colorful, which I found boring to watch myself. I don't know, like I know orcs are saying that that's the only way you could beat like dots or something, but I personally think it's just bad for the game in general, for any matchup, any race combo. So I think anything that reduces the amount that you are just killing buildings rather than fighting your opponent is better for the game. It makes it more interesting. Seeing like micro moves or seeing things like that, I find way more interesting than just like speed scrolling around the map and killing the opponent's tree of life.
So I take it when Grubby does that, you're not entertained?
No.
Would you have liked to see speed scroll addressed?
Yeah, I definitely think it's too strong. It gives orc the ability to just creep whatever they want, kind of, and just run away.
Yeah.
Like human versus orc, for example, you could bolt one unit maybe, but that's the most you're going to get. Whereas if you get jacked, you like lose the game pretty much.
How would you change speed scroll?
Probably just increase the time it takes for it to recharge in the shop, and make it like 25 more gold or something.
Okay.
Just so there's more, it costs more to do it rather than just being 50 gold and I think a 60-second cooldown timer or something. I'm not sure the exact time.
All right, Star-Shaped, talk to us.
Yeah, I guess I'll start by touching on what Cruncher just talked about. I think I totally agree about the fact that if Blizzard is going to say that it's boring to have tanks and stuff, then Orc has been there since day one, and it's kind of their racial identity as well to have pillage, raider, and the fact that raider has siege damage says everything. So on the one hand, it is kind of the racial identity to be able to raid. That's like the orc thing, but I agree. The biggest offender there definitely is speed scroll. It has to be nerfed. Like orc is such a safe race, and this is also why I completely disagree with Remo here about the 11 supply Great Hall. I think that's a really bad change. I really hope it doesn't go through. Because like if you have 11 food Great Hall, then there's this one obvious build order for orc in every matchup. There's no downside. Like right now, it's like a very fast tech, but you can't really scout that well, or if you do scout, it's gonna hurt you economically a bit. So it has an upside, it has a downside. If there's 11 food, then it's like, of course, I'm just gonna do one bro tech every single game. There's no downside. In combination with the fact that you have Windwalk, that you have Speed Scroll, you're always safe against everything. You can always run away, you can disengage. I think that is a problem. So if you're going to have the 11 food Great Hall, you definitely need to nerf Speed Scroll.
But you will still need to make an extra peon, which takes time and delays your tech a little bit, right? If you want to go to 11.
Yeah, sure. That's true. But I mean, in general, I think now, like, all races have different builds. And Orc has it too. You can go to burrow tech if you wanna scout, get a fucking second burrow. You can't have everything. You can't have your cake and eat it too. But as far as Shockwave goes, I'm kind of curious what you guys think, Cruncher and Todd, about human. Like, would we maybe see Chainwave make a return if it's like Breaker Caster? Does that have any effect?
Shockwave, you mean?
Yeah, it's like, are we gonna see more Chainwave, Chain Lightning, and Shockwave with this change? Like Farseer.
If you play against Krolu, you're gonna see it anyway. But from other players, I don't think necessarily. I think like Stomp should still be way better than this. I don't think 10 mana is gonna be like, oh my god, we're getting a discount, we're getting Shockwave every game. No, maybe if they want to play lame, right? If they want to hit and run on the map.
That's why oh, go ahead.
Like, because Stomp is getting nerfed, so maybe they're like, oh, we really can't win fights anymore. We're so weak. Oh my god, we're not winning anything. But the breakers are getting nerfed. That's more incentive for them to actually take fights out on the map. It's not like right now, if an orc meets a human out on the map, it's like, oh my god, I can't win the fight. Like, if you look at the games of most orcs against human, it's action-packed. It's like Stomp trying to land in the middle of the army. like a cruncher, like against Hitman. They always have like, exciting games, but Hitman, he knows the fights that he can and cannot take. And he often goes for like this creep route where he takes Expo, and then that puts pressure on Cruncher to try and do something about this. So I don't know what you think, Cruncher, but you probably think similarly, I guess, right?
I think the shockwave change won't matter. So if they go rifles, you definitely can't go shockwave because you need the stomp to deal with the rifleman. It's just too strong to have stomp on that. So I think versus casters though, there could be a bit of play because you could chain wave and then shockwave the casters. But I think it's mostly if you want to kill the human base or kill peasants over and over, just because stomp is being reduced a bit on like level 2, for example, 0.5 seconds, but it's still the same on units. So if you stomp the casters, that's 3 seconds. They aren't healing. They're 3 or 4 seconds, I think, that they aren't healing. They aren't slowing. They can't move, so your units get on top of them. Whereas with shockwave, you can actually split your army. You can. It's also in a line, so it's a bit weird sometimes, but you can also heal scroll. Whereas stomp, like if you stomp the back line, the orc army just kills those units quickly. So I think overall stomp will be still played way more often than shockwave, but shockwave could be retrained to, and then you could base lane a bit easier. But 10 mana won't change it so that they are like, oh yeah, now we can just smash shockwave. It's it's 10 mana. I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Remo that it might be one of those changes that it could actually be like quite annoying to deal with, like if they start laming. But I'm curious about.
You always tell me every time the best strategy is always laming, bro.
Yeah, that's what I would play.
How are you going out against laming right now?
But what I'm curious about, especially now that we have undead and human players here, like the War Stomp change, because to me, the problem with War Stomp has never been the fact that it affects the heroes. I mean, that's annoying, but it's the problem for me.
Yeah, that's because you play elf, bro. What the fuck?
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Fine. Yeah. But I mean, hear me out. Let me make my case here. If I can War Stomp 3 of your heroes, then I've done something right. I've done something right, or you've done something wrong. But if I War Stomp 20 of your units, then it's like thunderclap. It's unavoidable. I'll just run in with a speed scroll and I'm going to stomp everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine to reward someone to pull off like a triple hero stomp because it's more interactive. Like for me, the nerf to stomp has to be to units, not just to heroes, because otherwise it's still, especially like if we think about 2 versus 2, which maybe we're not supposed to talk about, but it's such a huge imbalance in that game type. So I'd love to see it like the units affected. And like Cruncher said, like if you're human, your units are affected a lot more than heroes. But if you're undead, like Side mentioned, getting your Death Knight stomped and you just lose the game. So I don't know. It's hard to balance that.
Disagree. I think the power of Storm should be stunning units. It's also the design of the spell. It's not much damage, but it's a big AoE stun, and it's like a really good crowd control. It's a really strong late game hero with that crowd control and the aura. But that you can, on top of that, also affect heroes and stun them for 4 seconds. It's just absolutely bonkers, especially when you're Orc, where you have Ensnare, Purge, or Lightning Purge, if you will, Hex, Blade Master damage. The hero lockdown is absolutely insane. The fact that Undead, even if they absolutely do not want destroyers, in some game they have to get destroyers just to dispel the Hex so you don't get chain lockdown. Chain lockdown is dumb. If you just are unable to use your hero for 10 seconds straight, it's kind of retarded. And I'm on an ESL broadcast, so I can say that word right now. Thank you, ToD. So I think this is the proper way to adjust this. I know we talked about this before, Starshape. You said it shouldn't be that good on units, but I think it's okay. Like, honestly, if you play Undead, it hurts you way more if you're not able to get that one invul clutch off in time or that coil clutch off in time for that half second that you're missing, rather than if your fiend is being stunned for 1 second more. And sometimes it's many fiends getting stunned, but of course you want to split against that as well. So I think this is the right approach to this, but I can see your standpoint being different, but I personally think this is the right way to go.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I just thought it interesting to see different aspects of this.
You said that as human, it's like you worry more about like the units or whatever, like getting stomped, but you don't because you're going breakers almost every time anyway. So it's your hero. Like what bothers me is that when I fight an orc and he just meets my mount tanking at the front of my army and he stomps that, and he only stomps one thing, that's my mount tanking. He doesn't try to make it to the back line. He just waits for the mount tanking to be at the front, stomps it, And then for 3 freaking seconds, I cannot use my hero. I think that's so stupid that it lasts 3 whole seconds on a hero, which is an AoE. Like when he finally gets to the backline, if he combos that on heroes plus units, like you say, it should be rewarding. If he did land a stomp, he did something good, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but with endurance, aura plus speed scrolls, it's not actually that hard. You know, you throw in a little invis potion, and then boom, you're in the center of the army. The opponent didn't even see you coming. So
Yeah. I mean, they have to address the speed scroll. That I think everyone
Just
can
to spell
agree.
it, Todd, forehead. What the
yeah,
fuck?
sure. I'll get Death Note on that real fast.
Can I just say one last thing before we move on?
Sure.
The mirror image change. I think that's pretty interesting in combination with the Toma retraining change. I can see like a late game orc. Imagine if you like retrain and get 3 mirror images in a big battle. Like maybe that. I don't know. I think that could be pretty cool.
I thought that was for the keeper, this change.
What do you mean?
To get free of the
Yeah.
entangle more easily.
It's also
Yeah,
for
sure.
the late game
No.
to spam mirror images and put lightning shields on them.
Absolutely.
Send them into the back.
So the mana change is definitely just for this matchup, but I'm saying in combination with the cheaper Toma retraining, maybe we'll see this like in general as just a thing, like a late game retraining. I think that'd be pretty cool to see because I agree it's a really cool spell, very unique, very like Blade Masterish.
Yeah. All right. Now we're getting in on the real interesting part. The Undead Spirit Tower / Nerubian Tower. Repair rate increased from 35 to 45. Wait, okay. So like this one was like kind of complicated at first, right?
Yeah.
So to fully repair the building before it took 35 seconds. I think that's what it is. And now it takes 45. Is that?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that accurate?
Yeah.
Before it
the
was
one I
55,
thought.
I think, right? So this is
Yeah,
kind of a middle
55.
nerf.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean this had to be nerfed. Like I have had so many games where I had like 50 or 60 super. Actually, I should read everything first. Destroyer cast point time reduced from 0.83 to 0.66, so this spell can be executed a little bit quicker. Criplord Burrow ability for current beetles level 2 and 3 requires the Burrow upgrades. I think everybody was unanimous. That was probably one of the changes that was needed. Beetle movement speed reduced from 290 to 280 all levels. I have no idea what this 10 speed represents, so hopefully you guys can enlighten me. Level 2 and level 3 current beetles hit points increased from 275 410 to 300 440. What the fuck? Death Knight's Unholy Aura movement speed reduced from 10 20 30 to 10 17.5 25. Cannibalize move to Necropolis. Gargoyle now has a new toggle ability, Prioritize, which will allow the Gargoyle to prioritize flying units over ground units. Necromancer's Unholy Frenzy HP drain reduced from 3 to 2 hit points. Skeleton Warrior and Skeleton Mage level changed from 1 to 2. Experience bounty increased from 12 to 20. Let's go with the Undead first, I guess. I was going to jump the gun. I was going to talk about this, but let's go with side.
All right. Well, a lot of changes. I agree. The Spirit Tower, Nerubian Tower repair rate makes sense, but I think Remo mentioned it once in a cast that compared to other races, usually undeads, well, when we repair the towers at the expand, we use all of the acolytes or most of them, and we're not mining while we are repairing because we don't have extra acolyte. Like you have like I don't know 10 peasants in your base. You're gonna repair with 5 or 6, and the other 5 are gonna be mining gold. But for undeads, while we repair, usually we're not mining, so that's something to consider. That's why I think 45 is definitely a good number. It was definitely too strong. Now it's gonna be less strong, but without being too weak. So I think that's a good one. For the Destroyer cast point, I haven't tried it, but I think that's really good. That's especially versus Night Elf.
I've tried it. It's so good,
Oh,
dude.
it's so good. Oh, okay,
Dude,
nice.
it's so good.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
finally. Dude,
Finally,
every time I
because-
play Destroyer spell, I feel like I'm fucking on Korean ping, but now it's a little
Yeah.
better. Sorry to
Nice.
cut you off. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, because especially versus Keeper Master, it can be super frustrating to dispel Entangle on time. Like, of course, if you're happy level and you can you can know that it's gonna happen before it actually happens, then yeah, of course, it didn't matter too much. But at my level, with my slow hands, it's gonna be really good, I think. So I'm really glad about that one. I don't think it's gonna be game breaking. Maybe versus water elementals, it could be maybe a bit too strong because maybe humans will have to stop summoning water elementals against destroyer, perhaps, because I don't know, like, or even wolves. I guess some orcs will they summon wolves and then they split them. I guess they won't have too much time to do that now. That's something to consider. Uh, I don't think it's game breaking, but at least it's a good buff for Undead. I You talked about the burrow upgrade. I think everyone will agree that was just too strong, and that's definitely a good change. Like removing a burrow from level 2 and 3, unless you researched it. Uh, the beetle movement speed, I'm not exactly sure how much, like 10 from 290 to 280. I'm not sure exactly how big that is. I don't really know the movement speed of units, so I cannot really compare to another one. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, do you guys know about that? Like,
Yeah, I
what
know.
does that represent?
So 290 is a higher movement speed than normal units. 290 is the move speed that all slow heroes were buffed to a million patches ago. Normal tier 1 move speed is 270. So footies, ghouls, fiends, archers, everything 290, with the exception of hunts who are faster, which are of course totally overpowered. Right, star shape. Yeah, so it's a little faster still than footies and everything, but it's a lot less faster than those. So it's a lot harder for them to chase and get damage in. Whereas in the past, you could just put beetles on footmen or whatever, and they would chase and get hits in. They can still chase; they're still a little faster, but they get in a lot fewer hits. So that's supposed to help, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one too. Yeah. And then we have the HP buff. I'm not quite sure why. I mean, I guess they did a bunch of nerfs, so they thought they should buff the HP. Uh, I don't think that was necessary, but we'll see. I mean, on one hand, I want Criplord to be nerfed because it's just obnoxious to play against it, and I think it's too used overall in every matchup. But at the same time, I don't want him to disappear because otherwise, yeah, we're just gonna go back to DK in all games, and that's not really what I want to see or play. So we'll have to see if it's too much or not. Right now, it's too early to say. I mean, usually it takes time for changes from a patch to be actually like well tested and for different strategies to appear. And unless like there's like super big changes like KOTG or Criplord, those two big patches were just too big, and of course everyone played those heroes. But in this case, we'll have to see. And the Death Knight and Oliora, I think it's a good change because yeah, I mean, a lot of every race has been complaining about TK being too fast and too hard to catch, especially for humans. I think that's a good one. Although level 4 doesn't happen that too often, and I think we should mention that the TC aura hasn't been nerfed. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm too happy about that. I mean, if TK aura level, of course, like TC is not, you don't go TC first, so it's less likely that it's gonna get level 4. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like if TC gets level 4 and your aura is slower than him, then you might be like kiting might be a bit difficult versus Orc, but we'll see. Cannibalize, I think that's gonna be pretty useless. Right now, it's almost never used except by Scut, I think, and maybe Mad Frog. So yeah, only in Sweden. So I don't think it's gonna be used too much. I think if they buffed the time to research it, that would be nice. Right now, I mean, I like to play ghouls, but I don't think I would get it.
You don't
The
think for
guard,
Aboms late game is pretty sick?
yeah, for album it's really amazing, but this change is not impactful for albums. Like, it doesn't matter. I would
Really?
still get it for albums. Definitely late game, it's amazing for albums. But for ghouls, I think that's what they were trying to buff. I don't think that's
Yeah.
gonna be, probably not. The gargoyles is really nice, but honestly, gargoyles they aren't played too much. A bit versus night elf and maybe Criplord the gargoyles, but yeah, honestly, I don't think that's gonna matter too much. The new toggle ability prioritize. The necromancer unholy frenzy, I think it could be actually pretty nice. But I've been thinking about playing more necromancers, but not like mass necromancers that Remo really hates, but more of kind of like humans play like 2 or 3 sorceress, Maybe like something like that for necromancers, so you can summon skeletons to scout and to creep. You don't have to buy Rod of Necromancies, and you can also use Unholy Frenzy. That could be nice, but I'm not quite sure yet because usually like undeads rely so much on timings that you don't really have so much money to spend on Temple of the Dam and on necromancers and on upgrades. So I'm not quite sure, but that could be a nice change. Like right now, when I look at it, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it could be pretty nice.
But you're someone
yeah.
that's sorry.
Yeah.
You're someone that's sometimes expanded. Actually, you like expanding a lot, and then in many of those games, you went for mass necromancers. Do you think that this maybe could be a little bit game breaking, or do you still see this as because it gives more experience? Like that's a nerf, but everything else, like the drain reduced.
Yeah. You mean the experience bounty changed? Yeah, that could be maybe a big deal for sure. Not only for mass necromancers, that's definitely like a concern. It's probably a strategy we're gonna see less, which is on one hand pretty good. But it could also certainly affect the early game, especially versus human or night elf, I would say.
It seems they want to discourage the mass summon abuse and encourage more the unholy frenzy, which
exactly. Yeah,
I don't think too many people are gonna hate that.
Yeah, that's good. I think I agree. So yeah, overall, I would say some good stuff. Like we have some nerfs, but I think they're fine, and even the buffs they are not game breaking. So I'm happy with the way things are.
Do you guys know the movement speed of most summons, like a water elemental and stuff?
I have no clue.
Water elemental is pretty
extra
slow.
Yeah, because Happy was saying that he would like to see the beetle movement speed change to the same as like water elemental, pretty much. So they'd be pretty slow.
No, Happy's pretty biased, right?
That's crazy.
He said the same as tier 1
220.
units.
220?
Yeah, that's what Wikipedia says.
Wow.
And so now it will be 280. Yeah, that's
take everything with a grain of salt, I think. I mean,
I mean, like he was like outspoken. Like it's rare that a player will say that something of their race, you know, is too strong or something.
Because he doesn't play it. He doesn't like playing it. That's why.
I mean, you say that, but maybe, you know, like you assume the worst immediately. Like maybe he just also like wants the game to be like interesting and fair as well. Yeah. But then again, I know that he says some like silly stuff. Like I remember when Carrion Swarm got buffed and hit mechanical units, he was like, well, he still doesn't hit buildings. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, come on.
Yeah. He also said that movement speed isn't a big deal, which freaking shocked me.
As an undead player,
he's right about.
Wait, what did he say?
He said that the movement speed nerf on Unholy Aura doesn't matter, and this was with 15%, because it's mostly about regen. Those were his words, and that surprised me, and I absolutely do not agree with him on that.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's hard to picture 15% and 20% movement speeds. Like I don't know how clearly you picture that in your head, but to me, 15 or 20, they're both pretty high. You know, I picture like a Ferrari next to a Porsche or whatever. Like,
yeah, it's still a big buff, certainly, but like if you've played Undead for years, once you hit that level 4, it's so amazing. Like everything moves so fast, so fun to micro. It's gonna be noticeable, probably only for the Undeads, but it's gonna be a nerf in many matchups, a little bit, not that much.
Cruncher. Looking at this, like you don't have to go over everything. I guess like the main thing is human against undead. How do you see it changing?
Well, okay, so the biggest thing is Impale is the most broken spell in the game, and it's never talked about. It does more damage than Clap. It stuns as long as Stomp does, and it's ranged in a line. So, like, if it's ranged, you don't have to be up in melee range. Like MK or TC has to go to the middle line to hit the back line and the front line. Whereas so you can focus them, you can stop, you can block them, you can stun them, you can attack them. Whereas a Crypt Lord can be on his side of the fight and then stun everything in the line and do more damage than both.
But it's a lot harder to land perfectly, to be honest. Like with an MK and TC, you can move a lot easier into the middle of the army and just clap a big AoE around you. Whereas the Crypt Lord always has to run to the outskirts.
I mean, it goes straight like so. If you have knights versus like A-bombs or something, you can't just like always run your knights like to the back line. So there's typically like a wall in front, and then all it has to do is like move to the top side of the fight and just impale an entire army. It's too strong. It's ridiculous. And the thing is too, like it's more damage than clap, and then and as long of a stun as stomp. And he's like super strong early game, right? So he gets the head early game. He is kind of falling off mid game, but then once he gets level 5 again, level 3 impale, it just like wrecks any composition that's not a magic immune. I just feel like it's
I'm not
as
sure
human,
about...
it sucks because the only magic immune unit is breakers, which usually are not very good against a Creep Lord Expo, against what the opponent's doing. But, like, I thought that for a long time, but then we started seeing Blade go for that and kind of make it work decently. Because then you have the threat of stealing beetles. And, then he has to go only for the Impale, but you can burn his mana and stuff. But I still think that Impale, not just on units, on heroes. By the way, like, it took forever for Undeads to start going Impale 3. Like, I was watching the Creep Lord games, and every time they got level 5, they would get Beetles level 3, and I was like, these guys don't understand. Like, I don't think they realize what would happen if they would take Impale 3. And now, nobody picks Beetles level 3. It's all about that Impale level. They finally understood. I stayed quiet. I never mentioned that, even though on my stream I was like, oh, I hope it takes them a long time to figure it out. But it's a really sick spell, I
still
think.
goes Beetles 3, but I agree. Like, whenever there's a spell which can lock down heroes so much, which, you know, is the lifeblood of the game, using your heroes to the fullest potential, it shouldn't be that impactful. I totally agree. Impale shouldn't stun heroes for that long. It's crazy. It's kind of like Stomp. Like, it's a 3-second stun and 1 second airtime? That's too much.
Yeah, it's the same as Stomp on heroes. Because you fly in the air too, so you can't use items, you can't heal it.
Yeah, you can't stuff a hero that landed.
Aren't that good at using Impale perfectly. The way you're supposed to use it is focus on the hero, so everything's attacking, and then use Impale, then they fly up, and then you're still attacking everything. At the moment, the way most do it is wrong, basically. They use Impale first, and then the unit's up in the air, so you can't target it. It's fucking flying up and down. They land, and then you focus it. That's not min-maxing to the fullest. You focus it first, then you Impale, and it's basically a 4-second stun. I also agree, and I'm Undead, that's too strong. The hero stun should definitely be nerfed. About the general stun, about the general damage, I'm not sure. You might be right, Cruncher. That might be too strong, but I'm definitely positive that hero stun is certainly too strong.
Yeah, it's just that, like, I could deal with like Stomp and Clap because you can actually, focus the heroes, but you can't touch a Crip Lord when he's like, because it's 700 range, so it's the same as it's more than heroes, right? Because heroes are, I don't know how much heroes are actually, but it's incredibly far, so you can't really do anything about it. It just seems way too strong. Going on to the rest of the changes. The Nubian Tower thing is good. It was just like once it got up, you were fucked. That was all it came down to. And because of the way Undead Expo works, they can just build the ziggurat while they're creeping it. So by the time you get there, the zig is up, and then you can't kill the zig because it's fortified armor. And then the Nubian gets up, and there's nothing you can do. This helps a bit, like Human vs. Undead. Maybe you play one base push, and maybe you can actually kill it with Rifle Priest, or maybe one more added to it is enough to break down tower fast enough. The Destro time, Remo was saying, like, when you cast with a Destro, it's like you're in Korea ping, but dude, with a Priest, it's like you're on a different planet when you're trying to dispel. So I think they should also look at Priest Dispel, because it's absolutely ridiculous, like, trying to dispel anything.
I know they were trying to make Priests more responsive, but apparently it's difficult, is what they told me.
Yeah, it's so hard, because even if you predict something's going to happen, like an LS or a speed scroll, there's still that half a second that you have to wait. So it just feels like almost impossible. Even like, I know Silver Beastmaster too. Like, you try to dispel the bear, and they take so long that the bear blinks, and then your dispel doesn't dispel anything.
Juked.
As for the rest of the Crip Lord stuff, Beetle getting burrow is good. It's annoying as a human. They come and burrow, and then you gotta buy dust for 75 gold to reveal one beetle that just gets resummoned or something. The DK aura. The thing with the auras is that the movement speed is like the most important thing in Warcraft 3. Like, being able to run away or catch somebody to go from camp to camp is like the best thing. Like, as a human, if I get endurance or Inholio from a camp, no matter what army I go, I feel so much more powerful once I get that, because everything's just so much faster. Yeah. So I definitely think the movement speed should be looked at. Maybe same with TC as well. I think the values are the same. I'm not entirely sure. And you were talking about Happy said, the movement speed aura isn't the biggest thing. I kind of agree with that because if I'm playing Human vs. Undead and the DK gets level 2, I feel like I can't do any damage anymore because he regens too fast. Like he's faster too, but when he doesn't have aura, I feel like I could bully him pretty easily. But once he gets aura, I feel like nothing really dies. It just regens too much. I think it's like
that's the thing about endurance and unholy aura is that they don't just give speed; they give other stuff, which in the case of the undead is like regeneration as well. And like as undead, when you have statues plus unholy aura, you can get death pact on level 4, and then sometimes you get like hellside. Like I played Biko earlier before my MasterChef match. Fucking Biko on ladder found a hellstone, dude. That Death Knight was never gonna die. I don't even want to bother trying to kill the guy. Hellstone, Unholy Orion statue. How the fuck? Like I need like 3 armies to kill the Death Knight.
It's a little helpful, but honestly, at the end of the day, especially level 1 aura, right, which is the early game, which is where usually you cement your advantage or your disadvantage. It's 0.5 HP per second. So over 2 minutes, you regen 60 health. Is that really that much?
It's a lot.
Yeah, but if you couple that with the speed, it means that a lot of your units can get away. So then they can regen from that. Extreme case, you even step on Blight, and then like it's even better. And then when if you add that to the statue, like I think there is no absolutes in Warcraft 3 where you're like, okay, like this is way too strong on its own, except maybe a few cases like Clap, for example. But if you take let's say the hit and run style from Orc, it's not strong because Raiders are too strong on building. It's strong because you put Raiders, which are very good at sieging and attacking buildings, you put them with a speed aura, you add the speed scroll on top of that, you add the safety of fortified defense back at home. So it's a combo of everything. It's the same about Undead expansion. For the longest time, we never saw Undead expand, and then like everything around their expansion got buffed like crazy. Like Sacrificial Skull didn't require a graveyard all of a sudden, so now it's like you spend like, 50 golds before you run to your expo. I think that's nuts that it's so easy to set up an expo. We've been seeing it so much, like even 1-2-0 in finals against Lin, like he sneaked an expo with Death Knight first. And like if you're Lin and you don't expect this and you don't see it, like by the time you see it, it's like congrats, like you've almost already pretty much lost the game. So I think Undead Expo, like because of that, it's because of all of these factors. It's not just one thing. Like yes, the repair rate was crazy. Yes, the Sacrificial Skull feels like it's too much, but it's everything together. And I think it's kind of like that for the auras. Like you say 60 for like 2 minutes, but like I mean, it depends on the matchup, I guess. But as human, it's like very freaking hard to surround a fiend. You shouldn't be able to against a good player. So if you only have like pure damage, you're never gonna kill anything.
I agree with Cruncher that movement speed is a really big deal. Anybody who especially ever played MOBA will notice that the cross referencing, like getting from objective to objective, is a really big deal. I think whenever Blizzard first made Warcraft 3, they didn't really realize it. Probably back then, fucking nobody knew anything about RTS. They kind of built their tier 3 armies, let them clash in an editor and see how they did. I imagine that's kind of a lot of what that came down to. And then movement speed isn't a big deal, but for actually playing Warcraft 3 on the top level and moving around the map, movement speed is a massive deal. And I agree with Cruncher that that is something that warrants getting looked at, but it's so ingrained into the race. It's such a big deal. Like if you change movement speed, it changes everything. If you change skeletons, for that matter, experience, it changes everything. And Todd, you talk about things being possibly too strong. Like Unholy Aura definitely is very strong. And a Narrow Tower, I guess, is very strong, but that's also like the identity of every race. Like Moonwells are fucking bonkers strong. Imagine if your farms could heal you. Fucking how crazy would that be? Militia are extremely strong. Imagine if your wisps could suddenly take out a yellow camp at the beginning of the game. Everyone has really strong aspects of the race. In general, I think the balance is kind of okay at the moment, with certainly there being some outliers. And yes, Todd,
Ready to work.
Before. Undead too good against human at the moment. But I think we're making steps in the right direction. That's my positive outlook, which I certainly do believe. But yeah, I don't think it would be the right way to look at everything that is strong for a race and cut it down in strength. Because if we do that, then suddenly also it feels like you're left with only impotent tools.
But I feel like a lot of us, or like at least like, for like me, Sidecruncher and Starshape, we would probably all like the game to be closer to 50-50 in every matchup, ideally.
Yeah.
And like right now, I think most likely all of us feel like there are certain matchups where we're very far away from that. So
Yeah.
it's not as fun because of that. Cruncher, if you had to say, like, what do you think was the ratio, like, who had, like, in terms of advantage last patch in Undead versus Human? What do you think in number-wise? If it's not 50-50, then what was it? And what do you expect it to be if these changes go through here, all of them?
Probably like 70-30, honestly. Like, the biggest thing too is I like a lot of pro games to kind of like help dictate balance or stats. I don't really take too much of my games because I don't play full time. I don't focus only on this game, so I'm not the best, right? So looking at stats or looking at the pros is mainly what I go off of. And between like W3 champion stats, between the data science that the War 3 info guys did about a balance, and looking at like how Infi can off race and just destroy all these humans as well, just tell me that the matchup's broken.
Yeah.
Not so much like myself. Yeah, I think myself too. I think it's broken, but going by these, I just think it's broken, and I think the stats are proving that as well. I think Infi swapping to Undead and beating Romantic 4-0, Chimiko 4-0, Sock 2-0. Like, these were players that if you asked Undeads 3 months ago, 4 months ago, they're like, yeah, these players are awesome versus Undead. Go watch your replays. They know how to beat Happy 120. And then now, Infi's off racing and just destroying them. So I think this patch, versus Cryptlord, I think it's going to be the same for the most part. I don't see too much changing. Versus DK, I think it's going to get a bit better, like with Peasant HP and the skeleton changes.
Sides? What do you think?
About Human versus Undead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say maybe 70-30, but maybe 60-40, definitely. I mean, what Infi did, I think, yeah, I mean, switching to Undead and beating every human out of, he's a great player, and I think there's like Undead being too strong versus human, but it's also Infi being Infi, and I think he would be able to do that. I mean, he played Night Elf when Keeper was definitely super strong, like 2 years ago. And if tomorrow like Orc becomes super strong, I'm sure he would be able to play Orc and beat almost anyone with it. So I think there's also like Infi is being Infi, like he's with Undead. I feel like he would be probably top 3 Undead in the world. So it's also, you have to give him credit for that. It's just not only about the race. And
Yeah.
with the patch coming, I as Cruncher said, it's definitely gonna help with the DK standard. Also, we didn't mention yet, but the Pit Lord Rain of Fire range, I think that could help probably. I mean, most definitely. About Crypt Lord, yeah, I'm not quite sure yet. I think we have to try. I think it could help though, but yeah, we'll have to try and see.
By the way, the patch apparently dropped. I'm trying to patch,
What?
but it's crashing. Yeah. I'm trying to
Oops.
patch right now, but it's crashed a little bit. Wait,
Okay.
where did Remo leave?
I closed the page, fucking panicking.
Indeed.
I'm blue now.
Cruncher, did you want to talk about anything else? Like, did you go over everything? Necromancers?
Yeah, let's go to the Necromancers fast.
Fuck Necros.
So, the Necro push versus Human just seems way too strong. I think this will help a little bit, but it seems to be also that the Undead just like wins during the push, so I don't know how much it's going to actually help. Like, if they kill your base, then you're higher level, but then you're down at a gold mine. Like, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's going to help. We'll see, I guess. But it also affects the rod, right? So I think Human versus Undead early game, they won't be they won't be as happy to just like suicide 8 skeletons to feed your AME XP. You'll get level 4 a bit faster, which is more mana, more damage. So I think that might help a little bit too, along with the Peasant Change and stuff. So it'll be good to see. I don't know about the other matchups. It might be too much EXP if you're looking at like Orc or Elf versus Undead. But versus Human, yeah, I mean, they're just going to suicide their skeletons less, I guess, which is good. I don't know if the XP change is the right way to go about it, or just nerfing the actual skeletons themselves is better.
Do you think that 12 to 20 is like the right one?
No,
So for
it's
human-
fucking- it's fucking nuts. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So with human, I see a lot of games with humans stuck on like level 3.2 when the dead's killing them. So in these cases, I don't know if it's going to matter in those games, but overall, it'll definitely help because you'll have a faster AM level 4, which is
Yeah.
more mana. So if they're just feeding you 20 skeletons a game, that's however much EXP times 800 or something. So faster level 4 is nice. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
Did everybody talk about these star shapes?
Let me cut in here and let me solve this discussion here. Let me tell you what's what. No. Look, as a Night Elf player, this has probably passed me by quite a bit. Like nobody plays Cryptlord against Night Elf, but I will say that from what I've seen, it feels like the Cryptlord right now is pretty much like a keeper, except he's also amazing in the late game. Like Cruncher touched upon the impale. So you have this bonkers early game with the beetles, and if you have a keeper, if we compare it with the keeper, then I have Entangle and Force Nature, which is bonkers in the early game. But then you get Dispel, and he kind of sucks. But the Cryptlord, yeah, you can counter the beetles with Dispel, but then he just has the Impale, and he's like, there's no downside to the Cryptlord. I think that's the biggest issue. But I also feel like Side mentioned this. It's important that he doesn't just disappear, because if you're an Undead player now and you've been playing Cryptlord, you're enjoying this fast expansion style, and then all of a sudden it is taken away from you, and then you got to go back to Death Knight. I'm sorry. So it'd be great if Undead could kind of find a spot, which we find like Orc and Night Elf right now.
Yeah.
If I'm Night Elf, I can play Keeper or Demon Hunter. It's kind of up to my preference. They're both viable. It's fine. If I'm Orc, I can play Farseer or Blade Master. It's kind of up to my preference. It'd be really cool if Undead could still go Cryptlord and not be forced into this Death Knight stuff. I also agree with Todd a lot about the skull. I think that's overlooked. I really think Sacrificial Skull should require a graveyard again, because then it kind of makes you have to have a downside to the fast expansion build order. Like you have to get a graveyard. Like there should be some kind of downside to it. So I think that's important.
They made some of these changes. Like in StarCraft, it happened as well. Like it was hard for the Terrans to deal with Mutas if they didn't have like an eBay or something. So then they removed you didn't need an engineering bay anymore, and you could make turrets.
Oh.
But there's been some changes like this, and like in this case, I think it was justified. Making Chim Roost available without wind, I think is okay.
Yeah.
But I think Sacrificial Skull without graveyard is just, if everything else about the Expo is going to be strong, and then again they are taking down a little bit the repair rates, but the Expo of the Undead is still cheap. It still finishes very quickly. Like all of these things together, they still make expanding really strong in my opinion. So that's.
So what people used to do if they wanted to fast expand with Undead, they'd do a slow Fiend build order, but they'd keep making ghouls instead of Fiends. So that way you'd get the early graveyard and then you'd get the skull. So it had a downside to it. You get a slower hero and you had to get the graveyard, but you can still expand. I think that'd be a good to revert that. The Nerubian Ziggurat thing, I think that's totally necessary. It kind of gives me hope for like maybe you can do maybe you can try and break the expansion now, because like you guys said, as soon as that Nerub is up, the game's kind of over. Or not the game. That's me exaggerating, but the expansion is not going to be able to be.
Kevin Shrimp said the same thing actually.
Yeah. So maybe now I can go fast bears. I can maybe right click that Nerub and actually end the game, or force my opponent to make more tower. I don't know. I think that's a great change. But the one thing that we haven't talked about that hasn't been mentioned, which I think is the biggest issue with Undead, is statues. I think we need to nerf statues. Like you could take away all the other nerfs right now and just nerf statues, and I'd be happy.
How would you nerf them?
It's hard to say. I think the mana pool is a big issue. I think they're just way too good. It's such an obvious, like there's never a situation where you're not going to get statues as Undead. You're always going to get statues. They're so good.
Nerfing the race across the board. That's like saying,
but it's necessary.
Let's give Moonwells a 200 mana cap.
But the problem is,
but the race is overperforming, Remo, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, statues they're not a good design because they do everything and they never run out of mana. And by the time, like after 2 years, when the mana's run out, they can just become a destroyer and you can get a new statue. So I think statues is the biggest issue with Undead. That nobody.
If Undead was too strong, but it's not really.
No. Don't get me wrong. Okay, it's not really a balance issue for me right now. It's more of a fun issue. Like statues are it's just a stupid unit. there's
Yeah,
there's no
it's
thought
probably the
behind
best
it.
unit in the game, actually. in
Yeah,
my
you just
opinion.
have to get the statue, because why wouldn't you? It's so good. Like there's no thought behind it. It's not like, what am I
Well,
going to build this
Krav and
game?
Madfrog don't agree with you.
Yeah, and
Do you-
I think they're doing it wrong if they don't
Re-
get statues.
Remo, you think statues don't need to be nerfed?
I think statues are extremely powerful, but like many racial aspects, they are the backbone for a race. And if statues were to get nerfed, it would be in the entirety of the undead race getting nerfed. Would be
Yeah, it's necessary.
like heal salves being, I don't know, 50% more
Oh,
expensive.
it would be
you know?
like speed scroll getting nerfed, which is also necessary because speed scroll and statue, they have this thing in common where it's like it's such a no-brainer. You're gonna get speed scrolls, you're gonna get statues. There's no thought process behind it because they're so good. Like why would you not get them? So I think
It's an interesting look. I
You also
remember
have to
when
consider, though, it's the only source of recovery. Like, there's no other way for Undead to do it. I mean, Ritual Dagger, Lemao, like, you need recovery in the game. So you have, even if
You
you
mean
nerf
healing.
statue,
You
even
mean
if you
healing
nerf
when you
statue,
say
you
recovery.
have to get statue. We don't have Moonwells, we don't have Clarities, we don't have Heal Salves. We have to get statue. There's
Yeah,
just
so-
no way around it.
I mean, I'm not saying we should nerf statues and not do anything about else, like not add,
Well,
add
you
buffs.
already got Unholy Aura and Dagger, like your favorite. And of course you have Potion in your shop. You got Scrolls in your shop. What are you talking about?
True.
I'm just saying that like whenever I see like 3 heroes and 2 statues like soloing a 50-foot army, it just feels really stupid. I think statues are way too good, and then they become the destroyer. And also one last thing.
So if you want to get into this, let's talk about Orb of Venom. No, I'm just kidding.
don't
Cruncher?
you badmouth my Orb of Venom.
Cruncher, what do you think about statues?
I definitely think the mana is way too strong. I'm pretty sure it's like statue's mana is the same as level 3 Brilliance or pretty close to it, which is.
I think it's more than.
I thought so too, but someone in chat corrected me one time and said that the way the game works, there's something that changes it, so it's actually either the same or just a little less.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere between level 2 Brilliance, level 3 Brilliance, which is ridiculous because we know how good Brilliance Aura is. So like with Unholy Aura movement speed, with the regen, with the stature regen, with the mana regen, like the cutting potential is ridiculous. And like Star Shaper said, you can see 3 heroes like beating a 50-foot army pretty easily just because you have the slow with the Frost Nova, you have the Frost Armor, you have the Unholy Aura moving, you have the nuke, you have the heal with the Death Coil or the nuke, you have the statues healing you HP and mana. Everything is just together, I think, just too strong. I think the mana regen on the statue should be nerfed.
I think we can all agree on that, right?
So
We're all in
outside?
agreement.
I'm not
Let's
sure.
find outside.
I mean, it's definitely very
dangerous thing to
strong.
touch, man. It's
Yeah.
It's the backbone.
It I mean, they are necessary. Like, I don't think the comparison with the speed scroll is very good because like you're gonna see, I mean, you're probably gonna see speed scrolls in most likely every games, but I feel like statues, we depend so much on statues, and I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna remove statues obviously, but even if we nerf them, yeah, we have to be very careful because there's also undead we don't regen. Like if we don't have an Aura and we are off blight, we don't regen HP, and like other races. I mean, for night elf, I believe it's only during night, but that's also one thing of undead, like the specific of the race. We don't regen of blight. If we don't have statues and we don't have an aura, then we're never gonna regen. That's why ghouls are pretty bad because they have like low HP points, and usually like if you're playing the Red Lord, you don't have any way to regen them unless you have statues. But I mean, if you're fast expanding, it's gonna take a while. So this is something to consider too. And yeah, I do agree. Like statues they're probably the best unit in the game, but yeah, I'm not sure about nerfing them. That would be. I'm a bit scared if we nerf them. That might make undead a bit too weak.
What about just the mana? Like Cruncher said,
Yeah.
if we
Yeah,
just
maybe
nerf the
just
mana.
mana.
Doesn't it just
Yeah.
depend on what the nerf is?
Yeah, it depends for sure on what the nerf is. Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
it depends, first of all, like if these patches go live, how that's gonna result. Does it not?
You mean yeah, sure. Like we have to wait and see what happens now until we.
Mm,
Yeah.
definitely.
sure.
They're gonna result in me saying, "Yeah, statues are not bad."
Beatles
Yeah,
aren't
but-
bad, Todd.
I
Did you
mean,
know?
the mana is the big issue. Maybe like the mana pool, like the fact that they're just so efficient for that 3 supply 200. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like something's wrong there. It's just
The mana is too much because if you watch a fight, they both sides back up and heal. Undead comes back like full mana immediately. Well, even if your opponent has like Brilliance Aura, it's Undead's getting like more mana, which is ridiculous. Because the point of the AM is Brilliance Aura. The statue's doing better than the hero is. It's just a unit.
And you've got players like
yes
Happy.
and no. When it's moving, you have to have it perfectly in range of everything. You have to micro it as well. If you don't, then it has no effect while moving. But of course, for the pro players, I mean, statue is very strong. Yes, it might be too strong. Yes, but a nerf to it would be a nerf to the entire race, which would only be warranted if the entire race would be doing too strong, aka overperforming, which has been said before that I'm not so sure about.
Right there on paper,
but
bro.
I agree that it's something to be kept in mind because just on paper the numbers are very impressive. Yes, but I think it's too early to go for a nerf.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There is supposed to be strong things in the game, but sometimes it feels like those things are just too strong. And that's always where it's tricky because there has to be the right balance in every race of things that are too strong and things that are just like normal or regularly strong, Like, I think Ancient of War creeping is like really, really strong. I think it's underrated.
Yo, guys, sorry to interrupt Todd, but apparently Neo, he just posted 1 minute ago. Somehow he got the latest patch notes. I don't know how. Did you guys? He's saying Great Hall still 11 supply, Archer HP 255 instead of 250, and Wisp Drain 40 instead of 35.
Oh, thank God.
And Skeleton Change reverted.
Yeah, let's wait for it. Usually it follows shortly after the patch came out, so now it's already been a few minutes.
We're trusting in you.
Yeah. We're waiting. We're waiting for that link. I'll open it as soon as we have
This is like the perfect timing for this show, by the way, Todd. Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start going over Night Elf. Then Wisp mana drain on Detonate reduced from 50 to 35. Initially, in the first PTR, that was supposed to be 25, but then people were like, oh my god, this is way too much. So now it became 35, and apparently it might be 40. So we're going to learn about that in a bit.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
Druid of the Claw Bear form, base damage increase from 24 to 25.
Can't wait.
Chimera, friendly fire. He's just giving play-by-play on everything. Chimera, friendly fire removed. Archer HP reduced from 260 to 250. So I think the Wisp mana drain, as everybody knows, was mostly designed to help out a lot against for Orc against Night Elf. And then Druid of the Claw Bear form, that was because bears are kind of shit against everything right now. Like, fucking, I don't see any matchup where they're doing well, except Mirror.
Yeah, the Mirror matchup.
Chim's friendly fire remove, that's, I don't know, like, I guess you guys will have to talk about this. I don't even know what to think about this. And then Archer HP reduced. It does feel like we had a meta where a lot of Archers were being masked in many matchups. So this is really, I can see both sides of the arguments where like some are going to be like, oh yeah, this is obnoxious to somebody's messing this tier 1 unit. But then other else are like, well, this is our best unit. Of course, we're going to mess it. So let's go with Star-Shaped.
Yes, the tier 1 dominance that we read about. Okay, let me go through these changes one by one. The Wisp change, this is an example of like one of those extreme changes where like, okay, the Breaker is going to get -1 armor. The Wisp is going to go from 50 to 25. It's like, what? Why do they have these extreme differences in the approach to changes? The sensible change would be 50 to 40. I hope that's what they're going to do now. Because it makes sense. But I'm not really... I don't think using Wisps as Dispel is a bad thing. I think it's pretty cool what we've seen recently develop. A lot of top elf players have been utilizing Wisps. And I don't know why that's a bad thing. People see Night Elf using Wisps and they're like, oh, this is stupid. But why?
Bro,
why
have you watched DreamHack Summer and Lowlight and these guys? Bring like 10 Wisp in a fight?
As the Night Elf, I can tell you, you don't know this, but mana burn mechanics are real fucking frustrating.
Yes.
But like, this is not even like Wisp.
When you play Keeper first in Night Elf Mirror, have you noticed that?
Can I make my point? Let me make my point first. I'm sure you can disagree. Look. Here's the thing. Yes, it can be obnoxious. There's this sense of Wisp being a get out of jail free card. Like if I already have 1,000 wood and you're attacking me, I can pull 7 wisps and I can like win a fight, and it doesn't hurt me economically. That's kind of silly. But other than that situation, I'm paying 60 gold for each wisp, and you can kill the wisp. People are getting a lot better at purging wisps and focusing them down before they can get off. So as a mechanic, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's pretty unique for Night Elf to use this AoE dispel from their worker. Because what is the alternative? The alternative is a 3 supply unit with a 200 mana pool that cannot be improved, with a single target dispel for 50 mana. There's no way that this is ever going to be enough as a general all-purpose dispel. Like, we need to have the wisps.
Oh, so you mean the dispel, not the mana drain right now?
Yeah, I'm talking about wisp in general, like being good.
Yeah,
the
but
mana
like
drain...
nobody cares about the dispel part. It's the mana drain that's the problem.
Nobody cares, bro.
Okay, fair enough. But I think the mana drain is important. The problem, like Remo just mentioned, like if you nerf statues, it affects every matchup. If you nerf the wisps too much, it's going to affect every other matchup. It's targeted towards this Orc versus Night Elf matchup, but it's going to have negative consequences, especially against human, I think, and against undead harassing. So going from 50 to 40, I think, makes sense, but nothing lower than that.
25 now?
25 would have been ridiculous. But I mean, it is important to fix this matchup because Night Elf against Orc is really stupid right now. It's quite heavily Night Elf favored, and it's like just from a like how difficult the matchup is. It's very difficult to play as Orc, and it's incredibly easy to play as Night Elf. Like there's not a whole lot that can go wrong as Night Elf. It's very a very relaxing, easy matchup in general. And as Orc, like Cruncher touched upon before, like you just have to keep everything in your base. You can't make a single mistake. One entangle, you're instead, and you're far behind. So it is important to fix this matchup, but this isn't the only way to do it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Personally, I thought that the mana drain was too strong, but in my mind, they were probably it would be better to nerf it only against heroes, not necessarily against units. But that's because, like, as human, usually it doesn't come into play as much. Like, I've casted a lot of Night Elf against Orc during DreamHack Summer and recently, and I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, this feels like Wisps. They went like full Sengoku. They did a dance and like they fusion together, and they were like, we're an EMP now. And then they go in and they remove all the mana from everything. The heroes, the units. There's just no mana for anybody anymore. And it's like so obnoxious to watch the Orcs just stand there and be like, what the fuck do? I can't even pull back. Like, do I just TP out every time he uses like 5 wisps because I'm screwed? So yeah, it's a little bit annoying. Like you say, Keeper is useless in the late game, but actually he's distributing punches with an orb in his hands. I'm sure Remo will attest to that. Like he hates that orb as much as I actually orb. Yeah, no, the orb. He still hits with the orb from a range, from the safety of a range attack. He has, which makes him very useful when he needs to staff. And the wisps, they still make him useful because a thing that will happen very often in the late game when Night Elf has Expo is if you attack the main base, you're fighting against Moonwells. Not a good idea. Usually, if you're ever going to attack, it's at the Expo. But what happens when you attack at the Expo? Night Elf pulls the wisp from the woods, and even the ones from the gold, because they know that they have such a good chance to hold if they use wisps. So then the wisps come in, they take all your mana away on your casters, and then Keeper is like, I guess that's my cue, right? And then he just starts entangling everything and using Treants. And Elf can do well because of that in those fights, thanks to the Keeper. So I think that's the whole mechanic of what bothers certain people with the mana drain, not so much the dispel.
Yeah. Sure. And it is good to nerf it, but like I said, from 25 is way too much, 35 is too much. 40 is in line with all the other changes we've talked about today, where it's like, it's not too extreme. Let's try it. Let's try 40 and see what happens. I think that's good.
It's conservative.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the other change, like the bear change, like you said, Todd, I don't think, like, bears are kind of garbage. They have been for a long time. I don't think this is going to change anything.
They're not garbage, dude.
They're complete garbage. I'm sorry. I'm
I
spitting
feel
facts
like
here.
they're not the best in straight up fighting, but they have utility, dude. They have fucking healing and roar.
It's rare to see bears do well in a game, though, isn't it?
I
like
mean,
if you look at Lowlight and Moon,
Asian games with Beastmaster tempo plays against human expansion, if you play it right, it can be.
Well, okay. Let me put it this way. I'm not going to exaggerate. So bears are underwhelming. I'll say it like that.
Yeah, maybe we're biased about bears because they were like the main strategy for Elf for so many years, and then we saw them in almost every matchup, and now we almost never see them, and when we see them, they don't necessarily do that well.
Yeah, I think that's important to keep in mind in general when they make changes, because we have an idea of the bear, and it used to be very, very strong. It was maybe too strong. So that is a fair point. Like maybe reference point isn't something we should be keeping in mind. Maybe we should kind of disregard how they used to be and just look at them on paper now. But I still think they're underwhelming.
We got the patch notes, fam.
Yeah. Oh
We do?
fuck. Whoa, where?
Yeah, it's in the chat. I'll put it in the
Let's go.
Discord.
You know, some people say bears need plus 300 HP. Maybe that's the way to go.
Oh, they
Yeah,
increased the
actually-
cooldown and rod.
I think Prizrak has some pretty
Oh.
good suggestions.
Where's the
It's in the chat.
patches?
I put it in the
Oh, in this
Discord.
chat.
Yeah. So, we'd also like to thank Back to Warcraft, DreamHack, ESL, WCG, WGL. It's weird, no specific mention of Remo here. All right, castle. So the castle change went through. The peasant hit point change went through. The clap change was reduced, right? It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
It was
60,
15,
100,
it was 15,
145.
15, and now it's 5,
So
10.
it was reduced by 5 on level 2 and 3.
No, it
that's-
should be reduced by 10 on,
Yeah.
like, you know, it used to be minus 15 on level 2. Now it's minus 5 on level 2. It used to
Oh,
be
yeah,
15 on
yeah,
level
yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Now it's minus 10 on level 3.
Yeah, minus 10, you're right. Yeah, that's conservative as well, I guess, right? To be honest, I don't mind conservative stuff on stuff that's really strong, as long as, I think, what do you guys think? Should there be more active patching? Should there be a patch like every 2-3 months, you think, or less?
I think that's not the right discussion for right now, right? Like, for example, what's not getting changed now after all is siege engines, right? They're not included here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they are.
They are, yeah.
Ah, I'm sorry.
You
I'm
need
sorry,
some
I didn't see
glasses, dog. What the-
that. I have fucking contacts, bro. I'm sorry, I'm just stupid.
Yeah, so what do you guys think about that question side? Like, would you like to see patches at what interval, ideally?
3 months, I think, is pretty good because it takes time for players to adapt. In my opinion,
Yeah.
we don't have that big of a player base, so yeah, every month would be too often.
Cruncher?
I think 2 or 3 months would be fine if it was a small patch. So like this patch is too big, but
Yeah.
let's say they only nerf the MK damage and they waited 2 months. I think that's fine, and then they can just reevaluate it more often, more frequently. As long as it's small changes, I think doing it often is fine. But yeah, you need time to see how things change, because for the Farseer change, for example, with like orcs used to go Blightmaster, right, and the humans were dominating them. I think it took 6 to 8 months before orcs went Farseer and then were destroying humans, right? So nothing changed in those 6 months. It's just orcs didn't find out the Farseer strategy yet. So I think time is also somewhat a factor.
Star shape?
Dude, they added extra effects to Gazlo's cigar. I'm so happy right now. Oh,
Stay
thank
on
God.
topic, bro. Stay on topic.
I was worried there for a while. No, but I think the problem I have is that they put out these PTRs, and who plays the PTR? Does anyone play the PTR? Like, do
Nobody.
they even get data from
Nobody.
this? Because then they'll update the PTR and say, we checked thanks to all the contributions we're gonna make to further changes. But like, is anyone playing? Like, it feels like this is just like a shot in the dark. They're just making changes and listening to feedback, like people writing in Twitch chat, like, "Oh, this is stupid," and then they make new changes. So
No, I like that they're doing patches.
yeah, but I don't have faith in the patches. I don't think they're based on anything really. And sometimes they've started to
What are
justify
they
it.
supposed to be based on? One balance guy who is the massive genius and can see it all in advance? Like, I mean,
No, they should
Yeah, I
be
mean, that's
based
what
on.
they did now, right?
It should be based on stats. So if you release the patch for real, and then you have a lot of data to go off of, you can make a new patch and adjust it. But
What do you mean data? What kind of data?
like
Balance
ladder,
data
okay, there's
doesn't
no ladder
matter.
now. But if they
No,
did have a ladder,
data doesn't fucking matter. Like, 99% of players are fucking scrubs. I am among them. Their results don't matter.
yeah, but
Really,
like the
it's
top of the
it's only about
ladder,
the top
pro
competition.
games, yeah, sure. But I mean, you have to have something
But
to
even
base them
there,
on.
there's so much variance. Like,
Yeah, but
it's really hard to do. I echo with what Todd said earlier. That's a hard fucking job to do. But
Oh,
I think
sure.
considering community feedback is one of the more sensible things you can do about this.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying that the feedback is based on, like, from one PTR change to another. I don't think anything's happened. They haven't learned anything between those changes. They've just kind of seen like Twitter reactions or something and like made changes. I think it's I don't have a lot of faith in these changes, the way they're being made, and they've started to justify their changes, which I really appreciate. They'll have a little comment, the developers' notes for every change, but they're kind of vague and they're kind of short, and I don't know. I don't really.
I think I like a lot of these changes personally, and I think like if somebody made a patch that I would really like, there is a very high chance that everybody else would hate it. And I think that's the same for you, Starshape. That's the same for almost everyone. So
Yeah.
the job that they have, the people making those choices, is to try and find the medium in the middle of everything, you know, where the balance will improve and most people will be happy, which is impossible. Like, you know, like this patch drop and then I look at the chat, it's like, this patch is a joke. Like, this is terrible and stuff. I'm like, I mean, a lot of these changes were really needed. So, like, if you look at the patch as a whole and you don't like it, I mean, that's possible, right? But okay.
Well, then I agree with Cruncher. Like, make small changes frequently and look at that, because these are too many variables to see what specifically is a good change or not. Like, if you change everything at once, what are you supposed to base your changes on? You have to change a few things and then see what happens, in my opinion.
Okay, let's keep going through this, because otherwise this is never gonna end. So the mount tanking damage then wasn't reduced as much as it was announced last. I mean, I'll take it personally. I don't know. I feel like this is really one of those changes that you have to see in action to gauge how big this is. I still feel like clap might be too strong because there is no cap, and then the damage is like lesser. But before, maybe the numbers from before were like too much. Who knows? Maybe this is the right number. Rifleman attack delay reduced from 1.4 to 1 to 35. So they reverted what they had announced, right? They reduced it from 1.4 to 135. Now they went back. So the rifles are not getting additional attack speed. They kind of went back on that.
Oh,
and
no, it's exactly.
Yeah, this
Wait,
is the
is
buff. This is the buff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad. Wait. Oh, so they reverted it before, a while back. That's why this confused me. The developer's not okay, so never mind. So this is still going through. Spellbreaker armor reduced from 3 to 2. Yeah, we kind of covered that, so it's still going through. Sorceress throw movement speeds from 60 to 55. We went through that. It's going through. Siege engine tank experience bounty is increased indeed. Great Old Supply will be 11. Mirror Image 80. Wait, something's missing from Orc, no?
No, they just packed it into one with
Shockwave
and Shockwave.
Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, we didn't talk about the air units. They were supposed to get a discount. Wyvern and Griffins, and they went back on that. So I think that's fine, right?
Yeah, it's good.
That's something I think I kind of touched on before in my balance notes. Like, I think air units are kind of underused, but also can be kind of lame and boring and run by and less interactive stuff. I think they got kind of afraid with so many changes coming in at once that introducing air units as well might shake things out of whack. I think it's understandable.
Yeah.
But I guess a small little hiccup here in our rundown. Do you guys, that's my opinion, I think air units, to see more of them would be kind of fun, though not in overwhelming numbers. Do you guys feel the same, or do you think it's better if we keep it all on the ground?
I like to see a mix of both, personally. But I guess we don't see much air. Yeah, so you mean seeing more air than now? Because now we really don't see that much air necessarily.
Yeah, especially like Griffins and Chims and Frostworms. Those are the standout ones, which you basically never see.
You mean like sprinkling them? Because I think whenever someone goes like mass air, that's super boring. But do you mean like just adding, like having them up as a part of your mix, like a couple of Griffins?
Exactly, like having them. I mean, that's what everyone wants, to have them sprinkled in as a bit of variety.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. As long as it's not like mass, mass fairies or mass wyverns or something like that. That's super boring.
For example, Grubby was very vocal about this, saying, "You know what? No, fuck air." It's not what he said, but it's my paraphrasing of it. Because it's less interesting movement interaction, which is true in air armies. There's no collision, everything clumps up. But I think I'm very much on the developer side of things here, that if there are units in the game, I think we should try to encourage use of them.
Yeah.
Cruncher?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, air units get countered pretty easily. I know, like Human vs. Undead, if they have A bombs, you want to add Griffins, but then the web is just kills them. Like, I think Frostworms are pretty cool because they're strong, but like their downside is how long they take and all that other stuff. But their unique thing is that they AoE slow. So like having one Frostworm in your army is actually pretty strong. It's just it's hard to get there sometimes. So maybe air units could have more things like that, where Frostworm has the AoE slow, then maybe Chims and Griffins have something else that could incentivize having like one or two, but not massing them because they're be countered too easily. I
Side?
definitely think mass air is bad for the game though, because like you don't want to see mass fairy dragons versus undead. You don't want to see mass wyverns every game, like base
Yeah, I
lane and
agree.
stuff.
Side?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think mass air is very interesting to play against. Like, for example, Undead versus Night Elf with the mass fairy. I think it's super stupid. So yeah, even though fairies weren't changed at all, but yeah, in general, I don't like mass air. Yeah, just playing one Frostworm could be nice, but they are pretty trash right now, to be honest. So yeah, maybe we could buff them.
Star-shaped, any comments about mass air being stupid against undead?
Yeah, it is stupid for sure. I mean, the problem, like Cruncher said, air units get countered pretty easily. So like one of the ways to circumvent that is to just go a ton of air. So yeah, web is super strong, but if I have 30 fairies, I don't care. But if I have like 2 fairies, the web all of a sudden is very strong. So it is difficult to get a few air units to work. So it's probably a lot of the time either it's going to be mass air or no air. It's hard to get around that unless they are given some kind of unique like aura effect or something that contributes to the battle.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. The Arabian Tower repair rate increased from 35 to 45. That was the same.
Yeah.
The Unholy Aura changed to 1017.5 25. That's also, I think, the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crypto level 2 and level 3 Carrion Beetle, same hit points as they had announced.
Collision size.
Same speed. Wait, what?
Hey, might change. Yeah, the collision size was changed, so that makes it so that it can wall off against level 2 beetles. I think it's a really good one.
Yeah.
It's really annoying when you're trying to play one base or expo or whatever, and you're trying to protect your expansion against beetles, but they just run in over and over. And this will enable you to be able to wall off. I think this is a really good change.
It's like the Farseer wolves, right? Like
Yeah.
level 1 can go through, but level
Yes.
2 can't. Exactly the same thing.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, that's really good.
So like a grunt now instead of a footman or something.
Yeah,
See you
exactly.
on the ladder, Krav.
Yeah.
Destroy cast point time decrease that did go through. That's the same number, I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
0.66.
It's a shame. I don't know. I think that was a fun little, like when you have an air unit that dispels, you don't have to worry about the
Dude,
battlefield.
it's so slow. Believe
Yeah,
me,
but it
it's
was like a
so
mini game. Like
fucking
I could try.
was gonna dip in.
I could try and get my rejuve off, and I could try and like bait off the just. I don't know. It was like a mini game in the game. I liked it. Now it's just you're just gonna dispel it every time.
This is still a bigger delay than Dryad and Disenchant and Priestess Spell.
Yeah, it's like a middle ground thing, I think.
Yeah.
Prizrak asked, why did the undead get cannibalism from the barracks to Necropolis? Remo, is this your idea or Blizzard's?
This was not my idea. Wait, what happened to the cannibalize? What's mentioned here? Nothing.
Sorry,
So it's just nothing.
Maybe they forgot to add it.
Is it with 2
Cannibalize?
N?
No, they just did nothing with it apparently.
What the-
Okay.
So it's not added to the Necropolis?
No, it's
I wonder.
there's zero
It's
change.
not in the patch. Yeah, it's not in the patch
Yeah, but
notes.
sometimes there is hidden notes.
Yeah, sometimes that's right.
Ninja changes.
Gargoyle now has a new toggle ability, prioritize, which will allow the Gargoyle to prioritize flying units over ground units. This reminds me of the Thor in StarCraft. But there is like two actual mode, like anti-air, which like it looks a little bit different and he's really good against air. And then you can fight ground with the other one. Do you guys like that?
I love it. Whenever I play
Serious,
Undead against
or?
when I play Undead and I'm against Night Elf and it becomes Gargoyles against Hippogriffs, I always lose because I attack move my Gargoyles and they just attack the ground and I lose. Like I need this help. I'm not good enough to right click stuff with my Gargoyles. I want to be able to attack move them and this helps me do that. So I think this is great.
Are you officially switching to Undead now, Starship?
No, I'm going to be human now. God, human's going to dominate. Trust me.
What?
What?
versus undead.
No, just in general. I think human's going to be on top.
Side?
Yeah, I mean the gargoyle thingy, I think it's nice for lower killed players. I'm not sure how to say it
Like
nicely, but
Starshade.
like Starships
Shots
undead,
fired!
not his
World
night
Star!
elf, but his undead. But for like good like usually like if you see craft play gargoyles, he will like you usually as a shade, and you will shift right click every unit
Yeah, yeah.
before the fight happens, and yeah, it doesn't really matter. Well, yeah, it's very nice.
Cruncher? Any relevance
Yeah.
to versus human?
I don't think so, but the CL guard just destroys you anyway, so yeah. I don't think it matters much for human, I guess, right?
Remo, that wasn't your idea, was it?
What?
Was that your
Sorry?
idea as well?
No. That's been a
They did
forum
change this
idea
without asking you first?
for 5 years.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's a great quality of life change. Yeah.
But shouldn't flying machines get the same thing if they have bombs?
I mean, they basically have the same thing because bombs have 100 range and the air attack has 500 range, so they never prioritize bombs over air
But they do.
attack.
They do prioritize bombs. Like if they have
Yeah,
to
like
choose.
like
the-
1 in 50 cases. It's
Yeah.
extremely
How much
rare.
human do you play to know that?
I'm just saying for
I watch
consistency's sake.
motherfucking
No, I'm talking to
games
Remo.
every day, dude.
Cruncher, how smart are the flying machines once you have gyro bomb?
I think it should be changed too because sometimes so what happens is you make 20 gyros to kill the Destros, and they swap to like banshees, and then you get the bombs to kill the banshees, and then they swap back to Destros. So then it's kind of annoying in those cases. So it would help once in a while.
You're complaining right now that you have to target units. Is that what's up?
Yeah, it's just be like a click. Like,
Yeah,
that's all
I guess,
fun and
that,
good.
I guess that's what the Undeads are doing, right? Yeah.
It's fair
Of
for both sides of it.
Weak sauce, motherfucking weak sauce.
Necromancer on only frenzy HP drain reduced from 3 to 2 hit points seconds. So that was, yeah, that went through. Rod of Necromancy cooldown increased from 22 seconds to 26 seconds. This is a targeted change to help human deal against skeleton harass early game. With the increased cooldown, Rod of Necromancy gives the human player a little bit more time to react and breathe before they're gonna get absolutely fucking obliterated anyway. With the next set of skeletons, this will also have a small effect on a few solo creeping routes as the Death Knight, but we find that acceptable, even though Todd doesn't. Cruncher, what do you think?
I'm just curious how much is going to slow down the Undead's creeping, because they, unlike CH for example, they summon the 4 skeletons and creep the camp. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a huge factor because you have not 4 more seconds with 2 less skeletons. So maybe they take more damage or they creep slower or something. So that could be kind of interesting. And then when they come harass you, you have 4 more seconds to deal with the skeletons before more comes. So
Yeah.
it seems like a pretty good change overall, I guess.
But wait for this. There is not the experience change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
I think
removed
this
it.
How
I guess.
sad are you?
maybe. I think this one's a better
This
change.
is a big deal.
Yeah?
Guys. This
You
is
think?
this is absolutely a big deal. Like especially the first 2 sets of skeletons you summon for starting creeping determines your momentum into the late early game stages. And 4 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but especially if you're going up against a fast expansion, which I guess is exactly the intended result. If you're harassing a fast expansion, it would be the most noticeable in that regard. And for that case, it's the most required. So this might be a pretty brilliant change, actually. And nobody has been
4
talking
seconds?
about this. Talking about
Yeah,
this
I
before.
think this is big.
Yeah,
I think
I know
this is
I know
good.
what you mean. It doesn't sound like much, but
I mean, just because a lot can happen in 4 seconds when you go to
it's
bed.
a bit of timing.
doesn't
No.
mean-
If you're creeping as undead, which is just DK and skeletons at the beginning, and when you, for example, on Concealed Hill run north for the first time, those seconds matter. Like
I agree. This is a huge change.
and the thing is, like, if you're going into other matchups, this is definitely gonna hurt a little bit. But for the most cases, like for example, Amazonia, you go kill the critter first, and then you go to the troll camp. Normally, your cooldown is gonna work out in that way. Hard to tell, but as I think, especially for the human matchup, this might be a brilliant change, actually. Hard to tell. Does require some testing, but again, it's.
But you like it better than the experience change?
Yeah, the experience is too crazy. Experience is way too fucking crazy. Like, if that went through, Night Elves would just be parking 6 wisps outside your main at all times. And yeah, it's way too good. Yeah, this is definitely better. I mean, it's a little bit of a nerf in all regards, but I think it's cool that undeads with that maybe have to be more concerned with how they use Rod as opposed to just spamming it nonstop. That's also not the most amazing interaction if you just spam it on cooldown, you know?
Yeah.
I guess you still spam it on cooldown, but it's, I mean, we all know Rod is really freaking good, just like speed scroll, you know? A bit of a nerf might be required. It's not that much, but it's a little bit that especially really helps human. That's true. The the third set of skeletons you get out is slower. The fourth set of skeletons you get out is slower. I'm honestly impressed with that change. It's really smart for undead versus human, and it's unlikely to be too damaging for other matchups. I don't know who came up with that, but I think it's very, very smart.
Sides, do you think this is
Yeah.
better?
Yeah, I think it's definitely better than the XP change. I think 4 seconds, yeah, should not be underestimated because it's 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's tough to say, but I'm sure it's gonna help versus 4 humans versus undeads. Very interesting.
Cruncher, anything to add? Do you think this is gonna this with the other change? Like earlier you said, right now human against undead is like 70-30 for undeads. Now you look at this. Does that change your view of human against undead in the coming patch?
Well, so most of it was based off of like the Crypt Lord. So in terms of like DK, it's closer for sure, like DK versus AM. This will like all these changes definitely help human quite a bit. I mean, the peasant HP increased, the rods are longer cooldown, the Pit Lord got nerfed, so several changes that help the matchup primarily versus DK. I'm not sure how much it matters versus CL because you would just summon beetles instead of a second rod, I guess, right? If you're like expoing or something. So I don't know about CL, but definitely for human DK versus AM, it definitely helps quite a bit. And as I mentioned before, I don't know how much it's going to slow down the Undead's creeping, but maybe that's quite a bit of factor, so they can't creep as fast, and your footman scout's a bit stronger on like harassing their DK or something. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
I'm curious actually, like now that there is the collision change as well on the beetles. Like let's go. I want to kind of go back to this because Creeplord has been a very big part of Undead versus Human and Undead Mirror in particular, and we even saw him. We started seeing him quite a bit against Orc. So this is in particular for Side and Remo. What do you guys think is gonna happen to the Creeplord? Are we still gonna see him as much, less in these matchups? Side, go ahead first.
I, I would say less. Of course, it's tough to say right now, but I would say less. I mean, I know like some players have been saying that even before the patch, that Criplord was played less and less, and I guess some players have been playing more DK compared to because it's more reliable compared to Criplord. I guess it's really hard to say right now. I suppose we're gonna see less of him, but to me, it feels like he's still playable. You know, so I will have to try and see.
I really like these changes. This makes Cryptlord a little bit better on the map per se with slightly higher HP, but it doesn't make
Yeah.
him so obnoxious to deal with in the base. He doesn't have Borrow by default, and if you're good, if you're targeting specifically against him, you can wall off. So you can protect your economy. That's the most annoying bullshit thing that can happen against Cryptlord. The beaters run to the back and they're just borrowing and then attacking your economy again. Super annoying. So I think this is a great change. This gives you an opportunity to play properly against him if you know how to properly do it with a wall off and with that borrow not being there at the beginning. I think this is the right way to go about it. I don't know if it's necessarily enough or too little. The Crypto still will have immense creep power once he gets level 3 and the Beetles with the stat line that they have. But I think this is a good starting position to start on. I mean, you didn't ask me for my overall view, but I'm gonna give it to you anyways because I always overperform anyways. Isn't that right, Todd? I think this is most of all pretty good. That Rod of Necromancy change is gonna mess a lot with undead players' sense of timing, but it might be warranted. I'm not sure about that. That kind of threw me in the cold water. But you know what? Compared to fucking Keeper days and crazy ass changes that threw us into a world of turmoil, I think we can be pretty happy with that. I'm an optimistic person, but even if I wasn't, I think this is pretty good.
Yeah. You know what? You guys almost convinced me. I'm starting to like that change a little more. At first, I was like, "What? I want my experience, fools." Yeah. I can't. I'm very excited to see that in action. Actually, I might play some games after this. Where were we actually? I think that was the last one we did, right? Okay. So Wisps. Mana drain on detonate reduced from 50 to 40. We've talked about that at length already. Yeah, that was mainly to target the versus orc. Archer hit points reduced from 260 to 255. Wait a second. It was supposed to be 260 to 250. So it's only 5 hit points reduction. Star shaped. Where's the champagne, man?
I'm like, can I let me ask an open question here? What's the point? Why are we nerfing Archer hit points by 5?
Yeah, I think it's the wrong change. It should be
Why?
marksmanship damage.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Well,
but
why
that's-
would
but
you
that's-
make
but
them
that's their-
weaker
that's
early?
That's their identity. They have high damage but are fragile. I mean, don't you guys know fucking Blizzard design? They love their unique abilities, their unique outlying personalities. Archers have high damage. They are the pew pew units from the back, but they want them to be fragile to keep in their identity. That's what Blizzard always does.
But they're already the most fragile unit in the game, in the early game.
Have
So
you heard about ghouls, bruh?
no, look. Now listen here. Let me tell you about archers. Look, so every
Tell
basic
me,
unit
Father
in the game,
Starship. Father
every
Starship, please tell me.
every basic unit in the game deals extra damage to archers, and archers has the fewest hit points of all those units. So if you want to make them weaker in the late game, why would you nerf their hit points? The only reason, like the only effect this is going to have is it's going to make them even weaker in the early game. It's not going to affect them at all in the late game. So if you want to target the late game mass archer abuse that's been going on, I guess, the tier 1 dominance that we've all been reading about, then yeah, you gotta nerf marksmanship or the damage somehow or whatever, but you don't touch the hit points. That's just crazy. Can you imagine like an even weaker archer in the early game? I don't want to live in that world.
I mean, I agree with you. In the first place, I don't think archers need to be nerfed
No,
because
I don't.
the previous statements of fucking tier 1 dominance that's only applicable to orc versus night elf, and that is
Yeah.
already getting addressed. So I mentioned that multiple times. So I don't agree necessarily with this change, but I guess they want to encourage more higher tech play. So
But
it's
can we-
5 HP nerf, which is not much, but I still disagree with it because if Night Elf wants to go for any kind of relevant late game tech in any feasible timing, they have to go archers. Why? Because otherwise they have to go hunts, and hunts are fucking ass. Even though Starshape would like
Preach,
them to be more
preach.
pussy than ass, they're unfortunately ass. Isn't that right, Starshape?
On a scale
I mean-
from 1 to 10.
To be honest, I don't know what you prefer, so I'm taking the decision away from you. Maybe you like both. I don't know. But the point is, hunts aren't very good, so you have to go archers for pretty much the majority of games. So that is my problem with this change. This very much like the previous skeleton experience nerf is a general nerf to the race where we should otherwise look at matchups. So with Undead, with the cooldown thing, I think that's a tiny nerf. And also with the Archer HP change, it's 5 HP. It's not that much, but it's a little bit. It's a tiny nerf. And that translates across all matchups. But to be honest, that's something that human also experienced with sorceresses and clap and with what's the other thing? Breakers, excuse me. So everyone is getting nerfed across the board a little bit, is how I see it, aside from Orc, which I don't even think is that bad since they've been having a rough time. But please, my friends, tell me what you think.
Guys, what I think is that Neo joined this call 10 minutes ago, and since you fools won't shut the fuck up about Archer hit points and your bullshit, he hasn't been able to speak yet. What's up, Neo?
Yeah, it's totally fine. Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
Yo.
Most important thing for me this evening is how much of an awesome community experience this stream is.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool to see everybody coming together and discuss this and celebrate this or not celebrate this if you're Starshaped. But yeah, it's really, really damn cool. Glad to be part of this.
What do you think about the changes in general since we have you here? Like, do you think it's like everything is in the right direction? Obviously, I'm sure you don't love everything, but
Yeah.
what about the patch itself?
So first, of course, I'm not as good as of a good player as you are. So what it impresses me the most
Nobody
is
is.
that we finally have some kind of communication. It's kind of weird though. It's like I don't know if that's common practice in other countries, but if it's like Christmas, we send a letter to Santa Claus with all our wishes as a kid, you know, and I want this firefighter truck for Christmas this time. And this is essentially what we want for balance and what we do for balance these days. We just send letters or do videos or comment on it in cast or in Twitch chat or whatever. And it's not a direct communication with
Yeah.
Blizzard. They just give us something. So for Christmas, for some changes, we got a green fire truck. But then we reply back, hey, Santa, this fire truck is pretty damn good, but can I have that in red? So this is essentially what we do. And this is something we haven't had in 1.5 years, 2 years, maybe ever. So seeing that they listen is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And this is what,
I feel like there is a cool part and then there's an uncool part. Like this is the cool part of talking about balance, but the uncool part, in my opinion, even though I whine a shitload on my stream and I've said it, like that's never gonna stop, especially after I lose a freaking game. Fuck that. I think the really bad part is during tournaments. Like I really can't stand a lot of the whining that happens, but I mean it's just kind of the way of the game, right? Like when I watch the recent tournaments, especially during DreamHack, and I see like everybody complaining about whatever race. It's not even about like winning the tournament or winning one match. It's about winning one map. It's like a human will win somehow a map against Orc. It's like, oh my god, human's so broken in the chat. And then Orc wins the next two. And then all the Orcs get quiet. And then humans, the other ones taking over with the winning. So I feel like there's, in that regard, too much balance winning. But I'm not the guy that can decide, you know, who will win and who won't and when and stuff. Like not everybody is like a saint and a doctor at the same time, like Thorzane, and just barely ever complain about balance. Like we all have different. I think Cruncher for a long time you were like very quiet as well about balance. These days you're talking about it a little bit more. Starshaped has always been whiny as fuck. Sides, I don't think whines a ton, but also I guess sometimes goes for it. So it's like, what do you guys think about that part of like? It feels like it's become part of Warcraft 3 culture where during tournaments we have a lot of balance complaints every time. Do you think it's like a vocal minority and does it matter? Do you think it happens too much?
It definitely happens too much. And it's usually just random people in chat who probably like don't play the game, just whining for whatever reason. Because no matter who wins or who loses, like if your race wins, the better player won. If your race loses, then it's imbalanced. And no matter what happens, like someone's always going to complain. So I mean, I guess for the most part, you just gotta ignore it because it's Twitch chat. You're always gonna have somebody who's gonna be whining in chat for one reason or the other. But it definitely is pretty annoying. Like if someone wins, if 120 won the DreamHack Asia, then it's like, oh well, he only won because of Imba, not because of skill or strategy or anything, which takes away from like the players as well.
And there is definitely, I feel like 1 or 2 guys per race. They are like the ambassadors.
Starshaped? What?
No. I don't think Starshaped doesn't whine a whole bunch during tournaments. That's the thing. Like if I watch Back to Warcraft, I don't see Starshaped.
No, he's the clean on cam. Yeah. He's
Don't
nice and
show
dressed
my
up, you know?
DMs.
He's fucking cleaned up.
Like-
but wait until you're in the PMs with him. Oh boy, all the fury is unleashed.
Yeah, but can I?
I got some screenshot, bro.
Oh no.
I got some screenshot.
Oh god.
I gotta defend Starship here for a
Slander.
bit because he's one
Yeah,
of
go
the
ahead.
very, very, very few players who does recap videos of patch notes or PTR changes or whatever. I don't know how many very good players we have, like 50 who are able to like communicate in English, for example. How many people do that? A lot of people are very complacent and take the changes, or like, of course, complain about it. But if you do a video about it, you definitely gave some thoughts about that, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
those YouTube videos are way easier to process for a developers team than a line in Twitch chat, for example. So that's the good side of Starshape.
Yeah, let's stop talking there. Thank you.
I'm just
don't-
kidding. Oscar,
like-
I love you. You know that.
I think it's fine if some players don't feel like sharing like their whole feedback about it, but then it's a little bit silly if after that you come and you complain a bunch about the patch, because you could have helped
Yeah.
form a different opinion about it too.
Yeah.
But I guess not everybody feels this way. It's also been really hard to get an orc on this show, right? A lot of the good orcs, they don't really want to be on. Like, I guess we had Knopf a bunch
Would
of
you
times.
ask?
Well, what about Spiral? He's whining his life, his entire life.
Yeah, Spal absolutely does not want to be on. I invited him many times, but yeah, it's sad. Like, yeah, it's hard to get
What
an
about
orc.
Cash?
Dude, Cash, Kiwikaki, like they just don't seem to want to do like this kind of show and talk publicly. Kiwikaki said he doesn't like public speaking. Knopf is the only one who's been up for it, but he wakes up at 6 a.m. and then does like the One Punch Man routine. So I don't think he can stay up this late for us and do this. But if I do a show earlier, maybe we'll have him back on. Okay, let's keep going through this. If you want, Neo, you can turn on your cam. I'll try and add you on this.
Sure. In Discord or in the?
On Discord, yeah.
Bye.
Okay.
All right, where were we?
Archer HP, the most important part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've covered that. Great change. Star-shaped agrees. Druid of the Claw, bear form base damage increase from 24 to 25. So that went through. I think everybody agrees this is fine. I don't see bear starting to do a lot better, to be honest, with this change, but who knows? Chimera friendly fire removed. And then we're getting to the changes that we didn't get to talk because the patch came out, so we had to go into the real actual changes. Pitlaw level 1 Rain of Fire reduced from 800 to 700. That's supposed to help the humans because when you expand, it's always a Pitlaw third, which is pushing and raining of fire like on towers, peasants, everything. Cruncher, what do you think?
So the thing is, I'm not sure if this will make it so that the Pit Lord gets hit by the Arcane Tower if he wants to attack more than just the Arcane Tower. Because I think we can do is he can hit the Arcane Tower still and be out of range, but he won't be hitting like too far back. So that could be pretty big.
I can tell you, like he can still, if he's at maximum range, like ultra pixel range, he's still out of range for the arcane, but he can never hit the peasants with that.
Yeah, that's a huge change because
But he's like at the very last corner, like ultra last corner.
Oh, you can still hit the tower and not get hit by the arcane drain, you say?
But you can't hit the peasants.
yeah, which is important because it's usually the peasants die over time from the Frost Novas and from the Rain of Fire. So if your peasants are staying alive longer, they can repair longer. You don't ever make as many, so it's a pretty big change if they can't kill the peasants as easily.
Yeah, actually, I feel like a lot of these changes are hard to picture. Like sometimes somebody makes like a video or whatever where you can see, like a Floss, I think, made one of these where you could see some of the changes in action, but every time he mistimed the attack on one of them. So
By the way, it also affects like from what position you are using the Rain of Fire. If you're using it like from a, how do I say it? From a vertical angle, so like from straight south to straight north, you can use it to damage and not take damage. But if you're going from a different angle from the side, then the range doesn't work out so well, and then you are getting burned. That is at least the testing that I did with it. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but I think this is a big deal, and I think this is a very good targeted change because, yeah, we don't want to see too much all-in push stuff.
Side?
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. I don't really like undead versus human the way it is. Like usually, human fast expand, and as an undead, you have to kill his expand with your chest retiming. And if you do enough damage, then you can stay in the game. Like either you win there, or if you don't win and you did enough damage, you can still like do a decent game, but if you don't do enough damage, you lose. It's kind of too binary to me. I don't really like the way it is. So maybe nerfing Pit Lord is gonna make Undead find new solutions and play differently against the fast expand. I'm not sure. I hope so, but we'll see. In any case, that's a good change for sure.
Yeah, there is a chance we just see more Dark Ranger third.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Neo, any thoughts?
Yeah, I like it because I think Remo mentioned this. Of course, he did because he invented this, I guess. It's just affecting this matchup and nothing else, and only one situation in a matchup. I think like you rarely see it against, I don't know, units. It's only against the town hall during a push. So this won't do much to the overall strength of Undead, but it helps with the matchup, and that's what we all want, I think.
Yeah,
Can I add something? So,
of course.
do you think it's good that the changes are being focused on human fast expoing rather than human going one base versus undead? Like, should humans
Ooh.
fast expo versus undead, or should it be
Yeah,
one base?
that's also something I talked about in the past before. I think it should be encouraged that multiple strategies should be viable, like one base versus fast expo. And that's why I lobbied hard for decreasing the cost of tier 3 tech, which is relevant for one base play, and that is what we're seeing here. I don't think it's enough. I mean, the rifles are getting buffed, so we may see a bit more rifle tier 3 play against undead. I also would have liked to see the staff cost reduced because that's usually a big upside to a human tier 3 staff of sanctuary, but it's so expensive, and especially if you're playing on one base, affording that 250 gold is super expensive. So I think if that was also to be decreased, along with castle tech and along with rifle buff, I think that could put human one base against undead perhaps in a competitive landscape. But that's of course speculation. But
Okay,
I agree
Cruncher,
with you, Cruncher. Like it shouldn't just be human has to fast expand to have a choice, to have a chance, excuse me, to have a chance against undead. That's a little, predictable and boring. There should be multiple options. Yes,
Do
sir.
you think reducing the cost of Orb of Fire would be better? That way, it only affects really human versus undead, because you typically don't get Orb of Fire versus Elf or Orc, or sometimes a Mirror, but
Yeah.
staff would affect Night Elf as well. Whereas if you reduce the cost of Orb of Fire, it only really affects the human versus undead matchup.
I think it's something that's Blizzard is very uncomfortable to touch because orb they see as a unifying thing across all races, and it's at least 325. It's already 325 for human, right? It's 325.
325, yeah.
Yeah, and for other races it's 375. So I think they wouldn't want to change that because of unison. And also, like, if you use orb correctly, especially against undead, well, let's be honest, only against undead, but it's extremely effective. Like, if you reduce the healing of 4 coils, it's already insane value. Like, I'm not sure it's the right thing to touch. I think staff might be better, but I'm not sure about that. I would love to see more tier 3 one base play emerge again. What is exactly the right way to go about that? I'm not 100% sure.
I'm curious, do you guys remember when the Orb of Fire was changed to help out against Undead? The initial
Yeah,
number was like 50.
Dude, that was fucking crazy. I heard you talk about that yesterday on
Yeah,
the show.
do you think that if it had stayed 50%, human would be favored against Undead?
I'm not sure. It's fucking
Yeah,
crazy though. The
I
thing
think you're
is,
sure.
oftentimes human loses the game before they get 6 supply knights, and in that case, it doesn't help anything. But that's not the only thing you have to consider. What if the matchup is more balanced and stuff? Like reducing healing by 50% is a crazy amount, especially for undead who relies on coils. I think 65 is pretty good. If they increase it to 60, I think that could be okay, maybe. But 50% is fucking bonkers.
Yeah, you know what is bonkers? The Creep Lord that I've had to deal with for many months. That was pretty bonkers too. Maybe they could have done the same with Orb and then let the meta settle, like you told me to do with the Creep Lord.
They're not bad, Todd. They're not bad.
All right, let's keep going. Helm of Valor, Medallion of Courage, and Hood of Cunning stat increase change from +4 to +5 for each stat provides. These items were underpowered compared to the other items available in the same tier. I like that. I think it's a positive change, but in my opinion, these items are still... Compared to a good auras that you could find, I still think there is a lot of work to be done on items. I would really like to see items being more... selling for more golds. Or I think they could have done the Neutron's idea, the Crown of Princess, the one that gives like +4 to everything instead. I think that would have been +5 is too much. Like the Crown of Kings or whatever, I think that was too much. The one that they put on Autumn Leaves, that did feel like a lot. Even though technically, if you get one of the good auras, it's still better maybe than that. But yeah, these, if you find the agility and intelligence one as human, you're like, what hero do I put it on? It's just garbage. So I don't really like it. I don't know. Like Cruncher, do you agree or?
I think that it's just the auras are too strong. Like, let's say you're on LR, for example. Both players creep their red camp. One gets endurance, one gets any of these items. Like, automatically it favors the aura player for what? Like, they both do the same thing. They crept their side of the red camp, right?
Yeah.
So it just comes down to pure RNG. That's too good. So, I mean, I think the aura should be removed or nerfed, honestly, because no matter what you do to these stats items, if you get endurance aura and you don't have endurance aura, you're undead, human, or elf, it's just too strong if your opponent doesn't get it as well. So I think that's what should be looked at, is nerfing the auras or even just removing the big auras from the camp.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else wants to weigh in on this?
Wait. What if we remove the auras from the camp? So we're left with Cloak of Flames, Claws +12, the +4 items, and that's it, right?
Yeah, there's not as much incentive to go for them.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think
better. That's better, right? If we just remove the auras.
The fact that one player gets, and like if you both, like I mentioned, LR for example, you both do the camp, it just comes down to pure RNG who can even win the game at that point, because the aura is just too strong to have compared to these other items.
All right, so I state this question to you guys. If we remove all the auras from that loot table, which seems pretty unlikely for Blizzard to do because they don't like removing things from the game, but would that be better for the game if we just
for sure.
take out all the auras?
Yep.
What if we cut them in half? Like
They
the
don't.
effect in
Blizzard
half.
hates that when it's not in sync with all the skill levels.
I can say that to the Wisp on the initial PT. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's a common thing that an item aura is half of the level 1 aura, then it's in line again, right?
It is still clunky and weird, though.
You're clunky and weird.
I know.
But actually, I always thought that in StarCraft, they never went back on one of the changes that they made or that they announced. For the longest time, I could have sworn they never did that. Like, it was very rare. Maybe, like, during the beta of Heart of the Swarm, there was this unit completely broken, the Warhound. Can I remind me of the Crypt Lord? Anyway, it was so broken, they removed this unit when they launched the game. And it's like one of the only times where I remember them going back on something. Whereas, like, now, if I look at this patch, they are going back on changes all the time.
Yeah. Which is
so I think that's progress, right? It realized, like,
Yeah,
they realized that this can be like that. But then, could it be the same stance on halving certain stuff like the auras from the camps? Like I said, I do think that items keep on will need to keep on being tweaked, and I'm not really sure how.
Spiral in chat asking for undead nerfs. You're a motherfucking orc, Spiral. Shut the fuck up. Watch Lin replays and learn to play. Alright, sorry. I got very vocal. Spiral, I love you, but you don't have the right to complain about fucking undead. Come on, man.
Side, how about these changes for the items?
For the items, I'm not too sure. I mean, what you guys said about removing auras or tweaking them makes a lot of sense. I think they're just too strong. You know, if one guy gets an aura and the other gets a crappy item, it sucks. So that's definitely something that Blizzard should maybe consider.
Yeah, actually, that's like, it's so broken, right? Like if a undead gets pipe, or like if a human gets, like, I don't know, one of the orc auras or an Oli. Like if I get an Oli aura, I'm like, all right, get out of my way. I'm gonna crush everything on my path. But like, maybe because of that, auras should go away from this, and maybe they should introduce, like, I don't know, balance the other items. But then there's not really enough other items, is there?
I imagine the concern for Blizzard is if we remove auras from the drop table, it's gonna make it a lot less exciting. To go for that play,
or halve
which
them.
Is always for a game developer relevant.
Yeah.
To make games exciting. So I think if we remove them, they would feel we have to replace them with something.
Yeah, but what about it was Neo, I think, that said that. It could be a good idea to maybe have them. If you find half a billion Soras Undead, you tell me you're like, oh, that I don't even fucking
then they're
bother.
going against their previous precedent, where they unified all the aura drops with all the aura skills. Like for example, Scourge Bone Chimes with the Dreadlord aura with 20%.
But they also went back already on some things because they always wanted to have like even numbers. For example, like 10, 20, 30% on the Unholy Aura, and now we got 17.5. So they are breaking
but
with
that
conventions.
10, 20, 30%, that decision was made like 15 years ago. That is not them abandoning their statements of recently.
I think I have the solution.
Okay.
So
Here we go.
here we go. So you can still get auras, but the only aura you can get is Thorn's aura. How-
I love it.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Then maybe they'll buff that aura eventually when they
Starshape
realize.
to the rescue again.
What would we do without
This is
you?
just a show of Starshape lobbying for a keeper for 16 minutes straight.
All right, let's keep going. Unless Cruncher, you want to add anything about these items or?
No, I think I said pretty much everything that I
Uh,
wanted to.
I mean, sorry, I don't want to take up too much airtime, although I
course.
already am. This is like, I think Cruncher said it already. Like, this is a big balance concern. On the low level, on the high level, it doesn't matter. Like red camp drops, they have such a big impact. And I don't know what the best solution is. I mean, the clear solution would be to just remove the auras, but I'm pretty sure Blizzard doesn't like removing, exciting things out of their game. But it's a big concern. This is something that I think should be looked at in the
I
next
mean, we're
patch.
not sure they think like that. And like also when you say Blizzard, like you mean the one intern that cooped up this patch together? Yeah.
I mean, should we really harp on them now? We can harp on them for a lot of things.
It's
and we
a
can bash
joke,
them
Leo, come on.
for a lot of
No,
things.
no,
but for
honestly,
once,
this
it should be
is
nice.
an amazing patch. For the most part, it's really amazing. Maybe there's one or two things out of whack, but like, dude, I'm gonna be motherfucking Blizzard chill. I'm gonna put on my Diablo jacket in a moment. Here. I'm gonna go all out motherfucking Blizzard chill because this, for the most part, is amazing. In fact, I'm gonna do it right now.
Dude
Oh,
had
God.
way too much whiskey tonight.
I don't think he even like because he was casting Meisterschaft with you and then he came immediately onto this, so I don't think he even had time to like do much.
Dude,
That
if it's
guy.
about whiskey, he's moving at lightning speed.
All right, bitches, you see that shit?
You know what this reminds me of? Like Rotty,
Fucking Blizzard
Rotty a
chill
long time ago, he
All the
bragged
way. I
about going
can't wear
to
it though; it's too warm.
he bragged about going to club in Germany in Cologne, wearing sweatpants and a Jim Raynor USB stick around his neck, and still pulling a girl. So anything's possible. Okay, let's keep going. Claws +6 replaced with Claws +5. We are reducing the attack number because at +6 the power swing for range heroes specifically in the early game was too great. Especially for humans, because when they found rings, their Archmage was just dog shit anyway. And finding damage is so much better. I think, I kind of like that, to be honest. It reduces the impact between finding ring and finding damage, but I still think that finding ring is, as a race that has to play Archmage first every game, is just so shit. And it's depressing, so... Cruncher, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. Do you think ring should also give a secondary stat like a small amount of magic res or like a small amount of regen in addition to that, so it's more sort of like more useful?
I think there will be too many cases, especially for the races where it will be too good for their tanky hero if you give them the armor plus the regen. I just think items should sell for more. I'd be happy to go to the pawn shop, not even fucking bargain for too long and sell that shit for a little bit more than 62 or whatever the fuck it is. Like, give me 100 for that, like, give me a bargain. But, like, it's so sad to get a ring. Like, if you go to the shop, you get almost nothing for it. It's useless for you in the start of the game. Yeah, maybe adding a stats, but then it's too good, right? You can't combine a circlet and a ring together, I think.
I was thinking like a ring, so it gives you 3 armor. Maybe it gives you like 0.5 regen or like 1% magic res or something too. That way it has a bit more use because, claws and circlets are absolutely amazing. So maybe if rings were a little better, it'd be, better on overall.
Okay, Remo, stop trying to make money off your balance changes here. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think claws are way too good in the early, especially when creep speed is such a big factor. I've heard a lot of people say that circlets are actually the best, which kind of overall they are. But the way this augments the damage, I think is a really good change. I know a lot of people dislike rings, and it's very valid. Again, with the fact in mind that creep speed is so relevant early, but rings can be really good later on. And I mean, it's kind of the nature of the game, right? RNG is a factor. Item drops are a factor. We could open up the whole can of worms with my discovery idea, but Todd would probably fucking kick me off the call in that case. So let's rather just say this is good.
Yeah, it's a little bit about flattening the curve, right? And that's what we do all year. So that's what they do in this patch. It's a good it's a good idea.
Who else wants to weigh in on this side?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great idea. I think close +6 were too cheap at the marketplace as well. So them being +5, I think the price
Oh, we can
might
hear you.
be.
You cut
Oh,
out, bro.
you cannot?
You cut off a little
Oh.
bit. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, yeah, they were too cheap, the Cloud +6. For their price, they were just too good. And now that they're +5, I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think for the most heroes, this is still the best item, right? I mean, Circlet definitely rivals it, but for many cases, it's still the best item, which I think makes it a good change. Even with that nerf, it's still a really good item.
Yeah, but what about fucking rings? That's my question.
Yeah, you just gotta install the fucking Infi pack, bro.
I can't afford it. Star shaped.
I'm kind of curious about what would happen if you could sell items for a lot more gold.
Not a lot more, just at least a little more.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, like, what if you could sell like for 100, 150, or something like that? Just maybe it sounds crazy, but it'd be cool
Yeah.
to be able to sell for a purpose. Because a lot of times you sell an item because it's useless or because you have to panic buy something. But what if like selling items could be more of a strategic choice? Like, yeah, I'm going to give up my claws because I need an extra 100 gold right now, or something like that.
I think that about the red as well. Like if you're human and you find brilliance, like it's the worst thing ever. Like it's so bad. You don't get that much gold for. How much is it exactly? I don't think it's much.
Like 250, 200. But I mean, the
250
problem
for the red camp,
yeah, the problem with the red camp too for me is that I don't know if you guys had these games, but like if I'm against an undead, so many times they'll just bum rush the Ogre Lord, coil Nova, get the item and TP, and that's like worth it. It's worth it to get that super item, and then they'll rush to the other red spot, do the same thing, sacrifice a TP for it. So honestly, just removing the power level a bit from those items did not make it worth it to just sacrifice everything to get that aura. I think that would be good for the game.
All right.
Just on the thought
it's
of
the
items.
third fucking time you're talking about. No, sorry.
No, I'm about to commend you here, Todd. Yeah, you talked about this before that, bad items being a thing, it's always going to be the case. No matter how well we balance items, no matter how well we get the balance there right in the end, finding bad items will always be a part of the game, depending on what your army's like, depending on if you have an aura already. And you proposed this, Todd. How about if we just increase sell value? I think that's a really good idea. At the moment, item sell value is only 50%, so you get 50% of the money back.
Yeah, but that's what I've been
items
saying.
that you sell. Yeah,
That's what
exactly. You proposed 80%. I think it's a little high. I think like 60 to 70 or something like that might be high, because I imagine what Blizzard wouldn't want to see is you just find items and they're worth so much gold that you just sell them all the time because it's worth so much gold, and that wouldn't necessarily make for the most fun experience. And I would imagine that's something that Blizzard would want to try to avoid. But with that in mind, still increasing the sell value a little bit so that you can sell items that are not that good for you, I think would be a good idea. Sorry to cut in there, Todd, but I basically just...
No, I'm just
praised
glad
you.
that this is going to be added in the next patch. Thank you, Remo.
Does anyone know how hard it is to change the selling cost of an item in the editor? Because, I mean, they obviously have a limited staff, right? So if it requires a new mechanic to be implemented, that's quite hard for them. But if it's just
easy.
the value that has to be changed, then we can talk about it.
Yeah, isn't that like there is melee maps requirements, right? That might be part of that. It might not be hard, but they need to make sure that then Blizzard needs to agree. I don't think it couldn't be that hard. Maybe we got some map makers around, they could tell us, but
Yeah, Mafe, where are you?
I can't imagine it'd be that hard. All right. Tom of retraining costs reduced from 300 to 200. Developers notes highly requested by the community. We are hoping to encourage some new builds and potentially create more ability variety throughout different phases of the game. It's kind of weird how 100 golds makes this feel a lot more accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Are we just
It
all
is.
broke? Like, what's going on? Like, how is 100 gold making such a big difference here? Where I feel like this is like so much cheaper now. What do you guys think?
It feels a lot more dynamic, and I think that's good. I don't know who it was, but someone made the comparison from Diablo 2 to Diablo 3, where in Diablo 2 your skill set is locked for pretty much the entire game with like 3 exceptions or something, and in Diablo 3 you can just respec all the time, which is of course not as extreme as it is now with the Tomb of Retraining, but it feels more dynamic. You can adapt to situations without throwing your hero away or something. It feels right for a 2020 game.
Yeah, I like this change a lot. The big hope here is that this encourages more strategic variety, especially in heroes who like to begin with a certain build and then go into late game with a different build. And there, the hope being that we might see entirely new strategies arising. I think this is just a great change in general, and it comes at zero risk. Like, what's the risk here? That MK suddenly gets to switch from Stormbolt Bash into Stormbolt Clap a little bit faster. What in the case that he's playing a fast expansion, which he always is, like there's no risk here. There's only upside to this to hopefully see more strategies. So I love this change. I think it should have been done a long time ago. And I really hope that we're going to see more strategies with that change.
Maybe some Dreadlord builds for side. Creeping with Vampiric and Sleep, you know, and then suddenly Carrion's there.
Could be nice for sure.
Cruncher?
Yeah, it's a good change. I know for human, like you can swap to Blizzard a bit easier. You could train your MK sometimes, so it's cool to see. It was definitely expensive and definitely took like a lot to buy before, so it's better now. So hopefully we'll see some more variety, some more swaps.
Starshaped, are you finally going to play Warden against human?
No, I'm thinking of this situation where I'm like, my opponent has Dispel, so I can retrain to Thorn's Aura, and it's just it's gonna be amazing, you know. Finally, my keeper can have some late game value.
Wasn't there like I saw a Reddit post about some guy who was like, actually Thorn's Aura could be really good if people. use
Garbage. That's wrong.
What a hater. All right, one of the win charges reduced from 3 to 2. At 3 charges, one of the win provided too much crowd control for a single hero. Yeah, they added a cooldown at first and then realized that maybe that wasn't the best course of action, so they changed it from 3 to 2. Is that too much? You guys agree with it? I don't know what to think about this one.
I think you should just remove the item. It's such a unfun item. Like it either decides the game or it doesn't do much. I'm not a big fan of this item existing in the game at 2 or 3 charges.
Sounds like we got one of the win hater. What's up with you, Remo?
I think it's a good change. It's always been a very polarizing item and a very unfair feeling item. Like whenever you find this item and you're playing against Dryads and you're like, fucking great, this is absolutely useless. But at the same time, if you play the right scenario against a TC or an MK, where the clap or stomp is impactful, or against a DK, where the crucial call is impactful, that item can win or lose you a fight. It's still kind of polarized in that way. It can still be utterly useless or utterly game winning, but it's not as completely insane anymore. I can understand Starshaped's viewpoint here that it still is not a very good item for the game because it is so polarizing.
Yeah.
But at least it is 33% less insane in the good scenarios.
And once again here, right, they wanted to make a change and they target the right thing. They realized, okay, yeah, our way to tackle this wasn't the right thing. The community has better ideas, and they did it in like a week or so. So props to that.
Yeah. You know that photo like of the fake mailbox of Matt Morris?
Yeah.
It's funny because the only thing you should edit from that is Remo's name instead of mine everywhere. Actually, I noticed that like the Tome of Retraining, it says highly requested by the community, but who do they mean? Because I feel like I
Yeah, I
never
have
heard
no
about
idea.
that before.
Oh, we talked about this in casts a lot.
Yeah, it was me and
It's Remo. He's the community.
and also a lot of community members.
Highly requested by Remo.
That's enough. Yeah.
And Witty. Witty has been lobbying this for
Oh,
years.
okay.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh my god, we're listening to Witty for balance now. Holy shit. All right. Wait, did everybody talk about Cruncher?
I think it's good. I was also hoping they would nerf the Sentry Wards and the One of Illusion as well. I think those two items have too much of an impact. When you got those two items versus like Rejuve Pot, like they're all kind of good, but I feel like the Obs are by far the best, and then the Wand, and then the Rejuve.
Yeah.
So I feel like a cooldown on the Wand of Illusion maybe, and then maybe a nerf to the Sentry Wards would have been good too.
Especially about LR. Shouldn't that be just Cloak of Shadows items? Like that camp, this doesn't just give you too much.
Yeah, it's pretty strong.
Well, if you have a sentry in the center of LR, you see the whole map. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, like especially on LR, it just seems way too good.
Maybe you should find only one sentry word, but maybe it's only on that map, I guess. Where like, but yeah, some sort
but
of
also
nerf.
illusions on LR with the Mercamp is
Yeah.
so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But the Mercamp
wish-
AI is also fucked. This whole game is shit.
It's mostly good, Todd. Come on now.
I always
Everybody
wonder
calm down.
when I look at something like One of the Wind, I always wonder like, why did they make Cyclone an item, and not, let's say, Cripple, or
Yeah.
in a fire or something? Like, why is it?
Don't tease.
Why
Remo
is
like
it this? You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird. Why don't we have more items like this who give us an ability, like
Yeah, it's a good point.
maybe with one charge or something?
A Wand of Bloodlust, that'd be cool.
One of Bloodlust, you can use it one time.
Dude, you got one Frostworm.
So there's Lightning Shield and there's Cyclone. Is there anything else?
Well, it's kind of raised dead, right? To a degree.
Well,
There's
that's
a-
not an item you can find, right?
The Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Book of
There's
the
a
Dead is shit.
there's a
There's
freaking
the
Heal word, I
ultimate
guess. Heal
in
word, War Scroll.
Resurrection, which is an Ankh.
Well, the
Heal Ward as
Infernal.
well. Yeah, true.
See, it's
weird
kinda
how they made
weird.
that decision.
But maybe that's for the
Maybe
very,
they
very
maybe they
few-
just get fucking lazy and
They're
like,
saving-
I have
they're
no,
saving
I have
it
no
for
more
Warcraft
ideas
4.
for items. What are we gonna do? We're gonna use some fucking spells, bro.
Warcraft 4, bro. Rune of Mass Teleportation. You get 2 charges.
Good idea.
Side, your thoughts on One of the Winds? Charges going from 3
Yeah.
to 2?
I think that's a good change. I think it's way too strong. And as Cruncher said, I would have liked to see some. I think, yeah, Sentry Wards and Illusions are also way too strong. They give you so much map control. It's kind of insane. Like, so yeah, those kind of items should definitely get nerfed. So good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Bug fixes art. This is. I've been waiting for this the whole show.
One more
Can we
thing.
skip?
Did they
Star
remove
Shaped
the
already
panda?
touched on it. Added
Yeah,
a
they
glow
removed the
effect
panda, I think.
to
Oh, they
engineer-
removed it.
What?
Right.
Where?
Wait, what? Ah,
They
the
did. Panda
panda
changed.
True.
Wait, what was it
Good.
again?
What?
So they didn't go through with the panda change. They're removing
Nope.
the cap and nerfing
It's
the
all
damage.
gone. The
Thank
panda's all
goodness.
gone.
So the panda is going to be the same as it was like in the last 2 months?
So still shit. Okay.
Yeah, still bad, but at least not terrible.
Oh,
think
but
it's
guys,
I
okay.
think they
it's
should
just
just
so-
increase the cap, right?
It's
Isn't
so
that the
many
way it
changes already. Like, I think it's fine.
Yeah, start like this.
But
I
I mean,
agree.
the panda's always in direct competition with Lich, TC, MK, and there he's like clearly fucking worse.
Well,
I'd
then-
hope you're forced to go because you don't have any other options. You can have fan and knives, but I'd rather have breath of fire, I guess.
Gotta go demon second, bro.
Oh, I am. I'm doing that all the time now, and I'm losing all the time. So I don't know.
so that's it for all balance.
I suppose.
Wait,
Todd,
what?
before you move on, I think it's getting a bit too late for me, so
Okay.
I'm gonna duck out now. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you guys for this discussion.
How about some shout outs?
Oh no, I'm too tired. Shout out to everyone.
And sweet.
All right. Thanks, man.
Oh yeah, the Swedes. Yeah. Shout out to the Swedes.
All right. Take care.
Thank you very much.
See you
Have a
later,
good
bro.
night.
Love you, especially me. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Oh my god. Awkward. Okay, Neo, can you join the Where Biden?
Sure.
Maybe easier.
Everything for you.
what does it mean when it says adjusted terrain units can no longer reach unintended places on CH? Is that something big, or does it not really matter?
I think this happened once in a base race in WGTL.
Yeah, in the top left, isn't there like some mini island or something?
Exactly. You can put a tower or something in one position on CH. And I guess that was fixed with that. But I'm not 100% sure. I didn't test it. But
Do you think they should be balancing maps as well? Because, for example, we have TM, EI that have been in the map pool forever. So, there's been no map changes at all, I believe. We have some new maps, but I think maps play as big of a role as these balance changes do in some cases.
Sorry, say again?
So we never really talk about map balance, or I guess we talk about it, but it's
Yeah.
never changed at all in any of these patches or by anything at all. Everything's staying the same. We have some new maps the past like 2 years or something, but we're still with some same old maps that were here 15 years ago with minimal changes. And I feel like map balance is as important as unit changes in some cases.
That's Remo's topic. Neo, make sure to mute yourself in the word.
yeah, fine.
But
No,
no,
yeah.
Oh, we hear
no,
you
you-
double. Hello.
You're not muted.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, Echo is fucking ass. That map needs to go. But I agree. I would also like to see more maps. There's, by the way, a lot of impetus going on in the map maker community right now. There's going to be in a few weeks a new map making contest tournament going on. W3 Champions is introducing new maps. In my opinion, still, Brightwater Oasis is a really good map, but apparently nobody else seems to be getting on that train. But yeah, in map making, there's definitely a lot of strides to be made, but it's hard to get a consensus on there. Like I think Todd and we agree Equalize is ass, but outside of that, it's hard to get the ball rolling. Seems
Yeah, there is like some
with
desperation.
Northern and Concealed, everyone agreed it's amazing because we saw it right away. But
Yeah.
that was also like a lucky golden find that suddenly that we had these two really great maps. I've seen a lot of community maps. A lot of them are okay. A lot of them are kind of good, but none of them have, for example, been Northern Isles level amazing. So yeah, I would love to see more initiative in that regard, though.
Dude, they really did Turtle Rock in the Chinese leagues. That's how desperate they are. Like, this is ridiculous.
I wonder, I don't know how much you communicate with the guys over there, but I wonder if someone told them why some maps we have are, to quote Remo, ass, and some are very good. Like, what is wrong with Last Refuge? Why is the illusion spot so bad? What's up with the Murlocs there? Why are creep spots interfering? Why is Echo Isles not good? So I think we are in a position to tell them what's wrong so they can fix maps as they try to fix balance right now.
Actually, that's a very good point. I think the map makers, they're very good. They just don't get enough feedback. Like, it almost feels like Northern Isle being as good as it was, or as it is, was like almost like a lucky thing, Like, it's just the map came out and then didn't need really any much editing, except for these fucking barricades. I'm still waiting for them to remove them because I'm killing them every game and it's so super annoying. But other than that, like, it's, it's a clean map. You got very clear camps. There's not going to be some stupid aggro where you run around and then you aggro them accidentally. There's not going to be like, I don't know, something really bad about it. And I think they just need to get more feedbacks. Like, more people need to put effort. I try to play my part, organize a 2-on-2 tournament, try to get some replays, some feedback so that they... And I think it helped, maybe. I saw that Vile Reef was added into the map pool. A map with boats. That's pretty sick. So I think it's for the community to maybe try and make more happen in regards to that, like giving feedback and stuff. It's the same topic as the PTR. Like, who's playing on the PTR? I've never played a single game on it. I don't want to play with 300 MS. So we try to make something happen ourselves, and we organize show matches on the PTR to try and see what was what. But then, it's like you got a bunch of like 3-0s. It doesn't really show us that much necessarily. So it's like very tricky, but I guess it's for the community, I think, to try and harder with that. And I would love to see not necessarily a crazy rotation like in StarCraft, because that's just undoable in Warcraft 3. But in StarCraft, they change like a couple of the maps every season. They keep like the latest ones that they added. We can't have that for sure, but we could definitely get more new maps that will be interesting and will keep the scene dynamized.
I think it's a little bit harder as a communication because map makers have to make the map. We have to give map makers feedback on the map. Then we have to tell Blizzard that we want this map in the pool. They have to implement it. By then, we have to give new feedback to the map makers to give us a version 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 or something. And then we have to tell Blizzard again to implement the new version into the pool. It's kind of tricky, to be honest.
We can be kind of independent, though, at least in Europe. Doing it globally with NetEase would be hard. But for example, if we put enough backbone and drive behind it, we could try to push Autumn Leaves into ESL Open Cup,
Yeah.
into the European
Yeah.
tournaments.
And
On
actually,
NetEase, it's on
ESL
NetEase,
will
it's
never
hard.
change anything, though.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
so
ESL
like,
is very stubborn.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, depends on perhaps they might soften on that. But even if ESL doesn't do it, we have a lot of other tournaments who might be willing to. In War 3 Champions, we already have it in the pool. On the biggest challenge with that would be NetEase. NetEase apparently fashioned their ladder pool behind what Blizzard is doing. So that would be difficult. But even if ESL isn't so cooperative, we have plenty of tournaments outside of that, especially on Good Game or on War 3 Champions or whatever. There are means to include new maps, which I think is very exciting because I agree with Todd. We have been stuck on way too long of a time with old maps. Like goddamn Echo Isles has been around for what? Like half my lifetime.
I think forever. Like since Frozen Throne, right?
on his tombstone, there's gonna be written, "Here lays Remo Demo, headed Echoite."
Ass. Rah, rah, rah.
No,
So
I agree.
For the
I think
players, maybe I have a question. Like, would it be better to increase the map pool to 9 maps and give an extra veto? Is there a downside? Is there an upside?
Side or Cruncher, go ahead.
So you had
I
2 more maps with 1 more.
Yeah,
veto?
exactly. You got 2 more
Yeah.
maps in the pool. Like, for example, at the moment we got 7 maps in the pool. What if we increase that to 9 and every player gets an extra veto? That would like make the veto process a little bit more complicated,
Yeah,
but gives us more variety, maybe.
it would be more variety for sure. Because right now, like as a human, I veto TM every single
Yeah.
time, and then usually AZ if it's a best
Yeah.
of 3. So if there were, I don't know if that would really change as a human because I would still veto those 2 maps in most cases. So my opponent would veto TSEI, I think. So I don't. And then, oh yeah, but there's a 3rd veto. Oh yeah, I could see it playing some effect. It could make some changes, I guess.
I really don't know if there's a downside to it.
Side?
I think it would be nice because even though I would probably also veto the same maps, unless you had a map that's even worse than the one I vetoes. But at least the map I would pick might be different. So yeah, overall, I think that would be a good change, Neo. I agree.
I mean, we need to have maps on at least the level of Echo Isles and AZ, I think. If we implement them, it should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we covered almost everything in the actual patch notes by now. So, actually, oh yeah, I meant to ask in particular Cruncher. Actually, yeah, for everybody. Yeah, let's let Neo go first. What maps bother you right now in the map pool? Like, do you want to see one map really moved out of there? Like, are you fed up of any of them?
Not really. I really don't care too much about them. Last Refuge really bothers me if creeps walk, if critters walk into creep spots or multiple creep spots get involved. I mean, it's kind of a skill now to pull them into it, but it's
Yeah.
not what a creep spot is supposed to be. It's kind of unique in the way that this happens, but in my opinion, it's kind of bullshit. So Last Refuge, the bugs on Last Refuge, they are really annoying. Plus the item drops are really annoying, which kind of goes hand in hand.
Okay, so
Oh, and Last Refuge, not Last Refuge, Amazonia, the natural expansions. I think it's kind of bullshit as well.
yeah. Side, anything?
Yeah, I really dislike Amazonia. That's the map I veto against in any matchup. I think it's too small. I don't like the map at all. I don't really like Echo Isles. I don't really like Last Refuge because of critters, but yeah, I mean the map is okay, but yeah, as Neo said, you can pull the creeps against human. That's kind of weird. I don't think it's supposed to happen, and yeah, I don't like the map too much in general. And I wish critters were added to Turtle Rock as well. That would be pretty nice. But overall, except yeah, Amazonia, the rest of maps are okay. Yeah.
Cruncher.
So I mean, like TM for human, just as terrible because human like wants to creep an expo, and that map with the militia nerf is just too hard now. I know it makes for some interesting games sometimes, but maybe if something was done so human could creep level 2 a bit easier or expos a bit easier, then it'd be better for human. EI is just a boring stale fest. There's one expo for each person. You just camp. It's boring. It's a bad map. TS item drops are just too strong. I think it was kind of a cool map, but if they nerf the item drops and make level 3 maybe a bit harder to get, it'd be a bit better. Amazonia is too much of like a linear map. You creep your lab, everyone gets level 2, and then it's just such a small map that there's not much you can do. And then the rest of the maps, NI is nice, CH is pretty nice overall. LR, of course, has the creep bugs, which should be fixed. There should be more distance between like the Merc camp and the Morlocks or something, make it more room between them, lower their release range or something, because when you're pulling the creeps with a wand of illusion, there's just too much of a difference from if the undead gets a wand of illusion versus like a rejuve potion, they can bug your expo, they can just keep pulling creeps, and it's just too much like random BS.
Would you prefer seeing new maps or those current maps that are maybe not as good being edited? Because, for example, Autumn Leaves was on WT Champions, and I did the same as I always do. I did it in StarCraft as well. I was like, okay, this is shit. I hate the new maps. But then the more I played on it, the more I was like, this is actually all right. I don't think it's like amazing for human, but it's not the worst out there. That's for damn sure. And like now, the map editor or like the map maker of it remastered it. Like the entire top left and bottom right part has been completely changed, and like I think it's so much better now as well. So I'm like super impressed with that. Like the fact that he's updated the map quite a bunch of times, and now with a big revamp.
Shout out to Tenchi, by the way, who's always listening to the community and who's always trying to improve as much as he can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Like,
do you guys?
good job.
I
Do you
don't
guys
really know
think-
if we had multiple iterations of a map. I know Last Refuge is I think 1.3 or something that we use.
Yeah, Echo Isle and Ternas, they had big updates. I mean, like they didn't have many updates, but they had big updates. Like
Yeah, I mean the Echo Isle change is like what, 10 years ago, 12?
Yeah, but it was a good change. These fountains were stupid.
Yeah, the 3 fountains.
Mana fountain in the center. I went Pala first against Azuops and holy lighted all these acolytes for like 30 minutes, dude.
Yeah, I
Those
mean,
were
but
the days.
let's patch maps the way we patch units and heroes.
Yeah, but is that feasible?
I think it's not as required. Like on some maps, there's some clear problems. I still think Concealed Hill, it's really annoying that the fucking Ogre pull is so easy. If we just turned that Ogre into a ranged unit, he would walk out way less of a distance than he does because he has this attack.
Or move
range
the
leash
tavern, like
stuff.
Make it so that you can't trap with the tavern. At least if you can surround him a little bit away from the camp, that's okay. But trapping it between the tavern and like the trees is like so stupid for sure.
But you can even leave the tavern the same if you just make the unit ranged, because then it doesn't walk out all the way. It just starts attacking or running back, I think that, and make it magic immune, so that the hex nonsense doesn't occur. Honestly, in my opinion, that hex stuff isn't too good because it takes the orc like fucking 70 seconds to creep the camp, which I think orcs overestimate, but it is kind of dumb. But in general, I think the new maps are amazing. As I said, Northern Isles and Concealed. I think we're really blessed that these are new maps. Todd, you weren't there back then, but 2014, we cast a tournament. There was a new map called Bright and Dark. And on that map, there were 28 creep camps. And on some of them, a rune of improved masonry dropped. So every race could get improved masonry. It was fucking bananas.
When they finally invented Time Machine, I'm gonna travel back in time and play on that freaking map.
Our two newest maps, honestly, are amazing. I don't know who exactly made them. Well, I know Kato made Northern Isles. Fucking amazing job. And I would love to see more of them because I think, yeah, some maps are outdated, like Echo Isles, like Amazonia, like Turtle Rock also.
Terna's got a really sick revamp, I think. At first, I hated it, obviously, because I played on like that old version for such a long time. Every time I
think
was
it's a
like,
good-
I'm gonna go
good
to the
map.
corner and creep the lab. I'm like, wait, this is not the lab. Like, yeah, so
Shout
but
out Matt Morris.
it was a good revamp, I think, on Terna's. Like, made the map better for sure. They added craters on it as well. Like, so there's been some good improvements. But yeah, like, it would be nice if we could find a realistic way to help out with the map making thing. Like, just have better communication.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard that there's a council of map makers, right? Led by Mafe or something. Is that still true?
There's a Discord
A
community.
council?
Do you mean that?
Like a council of like the fellowship of the map makers. Like
The
the
Mafe takes off his mask. It's like Remo. He's like, I don't just do balance.
I don't know. I heard about that. Like there's a
there's
group of very dedicated map makers who are very very dedicated to this and want to help out the 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 community to create competitive maps. Is that still the case?
Yes, and they have a
Good.
Discord as well.
Is a Blizzard employee in there?
I'm sure they are,
I think-
but how active?
I think so, yes.
Unclear.
I think
Okay.
players won't make
because- How did the last maps get included? It was a lot of us on the community pitching these maps to pretty much Architect, right? Or Cam or whatever. That's how the maps got included.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, what?
No, he's just laughing at Spiral in the chat.
Ah, okay.
Because
I
he's,
thought
'cause
he's
he's an
laughing at
idiot.
me.
Sorry,
Uh,
sorry. Yeah.
You're not even listening to your co-caster, for fuck's sake, Remo.
No,
He
I
never
am.
does.
No, I always do. But
Go fuck yourself, man.
What'd
You
you say?
never do. You literally in this week's WCG, you repeated me 25 times.
yo, hey,
And so it
yesterday
comes
was an
out.
exception. I was hungover once. Okay.
Go fuck
Once.
Oh
yourself.
my god.
Anyway,
Actually,
One
it probably
time,
happened to
one
me a
time.
bunch of times during
I'm human,
DreamHack,
I'm
didn't
human,
it?
okay?
it totally happened to me as well. But yeah, anyway. But that's the process, right? We do have a group of map makers who are really talented and got access to the maps and can edit them. Then we pitch them to Cam, Architect, Blizzard person, and they implement it, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I really think
That's the
that
thing,
maybe
we're
an
not
effort.
relying on Blizzard anymore because
Yeah,
of
more
the
effort
fans.
should be made from the community, and by that I mean like
But if Blizzard
you,
implements
Neo.
them, but
You should
But
take
if-
this responsibility from
yeah,
now, Neo.
for sure. No,
you're
but
in
if
charge
Blizzard
of maps.
implements them into the Belnet map pool, they are very likely to be implemented into the NetEase map pool, and then they're kinda maybe likely to be implemented in WGL, and then the rest of the tournaments follow.
Yeah,
Okay, we
but
need
I
to send
mean,
our best
that-
lobbies for this.
that's-
Remo, are
that's
you up for the job?
That's excluding the latest development because Brightwater has seen no inclusion.
In tournament, yeah, that's true. Why is it not included in tournament?
Because it's shit.
No, it's not shit. Shut up. It's amazing.
Okay, so yeah, let's just close
Yeah.
that subject on the note that I personally would love to see more communication between players and map makers, but I think unless people like Neo take it up on their shoulders and facilitate that communication, I don't think that's gonna happen. I could try and help as well, to be honest. We'll see. That's definitely something that I've tried in the past to help out with, but it's not easy, but could be done more because it will make the scene better for sure. All right, let's kind of wrap things up. There was one last thing that Cruncher wanted to talk about, which was after. Well, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, I guess, but how do you guys think Blizzard should balance the game, like the most effective way? Like, is it mostly through pros' opinions, statistics, professional game statistics, specified ladder statistics, etc.? Or do you think making videos about balance and discussion on social media are perhaps as important? I mean, personally, I feel like it has felt important. Like a lot of people have been talking about balance. I'm hopeful that Blizzard watched a lot of that, and then they thought that only Remo was saying smart stuff, so they took all of his changes. Like, what do you guys think? Remo, go first.
I think it's a very, very hard question to answer. I mean, on balance, I very often have a clear standpoint, and I'm very vocal about that. but I'm also very aware of the fact that it is my standpoint, and I'm never really sure that it's correct. I try to take different people's opinions into account, and that's me. That is just me as a person, as to how I would see balance and how I would personally like to see balance be perfected as much as possible, because that is something I think I might be a little bit better at than the average player, is to exclude myself from the equation and try to make it a balanced ecosystem. I think many players would love to see their race be buffed a lot and see their race be very strong. And I mean, of course, also when I see undead nerfs, it also hits me in the gut. I'm like, shit, man, that hurts. But I think I at least try to, and I'm not sure that I'm succeeding in that, but I try to make it in my mind a whole balanced argument, all in total. And what's the question? Look at Todd, fucking embarrassed.
Can we just kick him out?
What's the best
That's what
way
it-
to
that's-
provide?
That's what he's been asking for the cast for the last 3 days.
What the
No,
fuck?
I know what you mean. It's hard to balance a game, and who do you listen to? Yeah, that's also the thing. Like, whoever works at Blizzard, shout out to you guys. I think we all agree you've been doing a pretty good job with the changes recently, and you've been listening to the community a lot. And obviously, you're not top players. I mean, because fucking top players are extremely rare and
And
far between.
famous.
But I think they're making a very good attempt to try to help with these changes. I think that they're doing a good job so far. But Todd, as to your question, what is the best way to go about it? I'm really not sure. I think they are doing a decent job right now with having their own ideas, getting influenced by the community, throwing out changes and adjusting. I thought also that was a weird strategy, right? They bring out the PTR first and they throw out insane numbers and then they go back on them. That seems very indecisive, but kind of for the end result, it worked out sort of well, which is weird, right? Like, so they're backtracking and it
Yeah,
works out sort of well. So it's not the most traditional way of handling it, but uh, we were disappointed with Reforged a lot. Let's be honest. By the way, we still don't have motherfucking
Where
ladder.
is this going?
But I
Nowhere.
I think with this, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I think with this most recent balance change, they did a really good job. A
Yeah.
really good job, honestly. I'm gonna pack out my fucking Blizzard Chill jacket again.
Okay, thank you, Agrig19, by the way, for the dono. And he asked at the same time, I believe only casters should be asked about balance. If players want to
Oh,
comment
no.
on balance, they should do it under lie detector. And I think what he's hinting at is that every player will be quad biased, but I think that can also be true for casters.
Even
'Cause
casters
everybody-
have a bias.
Yeah, everybody
has a
plays
racial
one
I
main
have
race.
no idea about this game, but I got a solution for this problem. If there's an issue, or if there's an opinion, we always have to ask why, and then we need an explanation. And then there's an explanation in the room. Let's say a human player says, "Oh, Stomp is way too strong. I can't deal with it. It's imbalanced." Then you ask him why, and then he gives you the explanation. Then an orc player can reply, "Well, that might be true, but I rely on this because this and this and this." The people who do the balance have to be educated by pro players why, for example, a spell is so important and why it's important that it's 2 seconds and not 1 second. For example, the storm changes at the very first PTR iteration were way too weak, and we told them, "Oh, guys, this level 1 change, that's not good. That's absolutely useless because." And they learned very quickly. So I think we should never ask casters like me, but we should ask pro players why changes are necessary and what these changes will change in a matchup or something, or in all matchups.
Yeah. Remo, what
Like
are you
the
drinking?
question why is important.
What are you drinking in this giant glass of yours? You look like Thor.
You know, Today is tomorrow is the first day off in a long time, so I'm enjoying a drink of rum and coke. Todd, are you willing
and
to toast
Coke,
with
And
me, bro?
enjoy it.
Cheers. Cheers,
Let
bro.
me get my water. All right, sides. What do you think was the best way to provide balanced feedback, or like what should Blizzard pay attention in order to decide what's to buff or nerf?
That's a really tough. That's a really tough question. Honestly, I'm not quite sure myself. I've been thinking about it, but I cannot really find a proper answer. I mean, obviously, pro opinions matter, but at the same times, you don't want like too biased opinions. So the idea of Neo to ask why something should change and like the other races counter arguing, I suppose. But that's a good idea, but I'm not sure how you would be able to do that because I feel like it's already tough to get proper opinions from players. Some players do make videos about like the patch notes, which is great, but that's not everyone, and I'm not sure honestly. I don't have a good answer for this question.
Short interjection, by the way.
Yeah, Remo didn't
It's-
tell either.
Yeah. So I know I haven't talked in a while. No, but just Agric19 just donated 10 subs to us, and I think he may be just still stuck on our channel. I happen to have this thing online. Thank you, man. We're on ToD's channel though, but realize we appreciate you. Sorry, Todd. I'm interrupting you for money that is going to us. I know you hate me from now on, but Todd, believe me, I still love you. So let's continue from there on.
Yeah. Actually, next time we have dinner together, I can pay that way. Kappa. Cruncher, that was actually your idea to bring up this question. I'm sure you got a great answer. Unlike Remo, what do you think should be the way Blizzard should get feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but I think a multitude of things should be taken into account. You know, obviously, ladder stats don't matter for everything, right? But at the same time, pro players will be biased in their own ways, and just because they're a pro at the game doesn't mean they know the best way to balance the game. You know, if there's this guy in the community who's been translating some of TH and Infi's comments, like SLSSH, I believe is his name or something, and he was talking about how TH was saying that the Crypt Lord is bad and that human destroys Night Elf, and then Infi said the opposite. So you know, there's two players about equal skill level play the same race, and they both say the opposite things. So just because a pro player is a pro doesn't mean they know the best way exactly. But obviously, their feedback is still useful because they know a lot about the game. They're in depth about their strategies and stuff like that. I also think like overall tournament results over the course of a period should be taken into account. If one race is overperforming like Undead is, you know, that's something they can look at. That's something they can look at. And then ladder stats are probably the last in the line of things that could be also looked at as well. If on ladder one race has 90% win rate, for example, just making this up, but you know, has 90% win rate, maybe that could be looked at and say, well, why is it doing so well on ladder? Is it pros are able to micro better and deal with it? Is it too easy of a strategy to execute? So I think a multitude of things should be taken into account, and that can lead to, you know, better balance overall.
Yeah,
and then
I agree.
one thing too is, do you guys think making like videos about balance and having discussions is useful? Because
Yes.
from my perspective before this, I would say no. I would say that if I made a video or if I talked about it on Twitter or made it on my stream or something, it wouldn't matter. But I'm just curious what you guys think.
Oh, do you mean it's useful in
Extremely
regards
useful.
to Blizzard, or useful in regards to having like a discussion about balance?
Useful to Blizzard, so they would make a change.
I think it's doubly useful. First of all, to inform the community about your expert insights, but also that is the shit that Blizzard is looking for. Because for the most part, they try to get involved with Warcraft, but what do you think their actual ladder competence is? Like fucking 1800 at most. So yeah, this is exactly what they're looking for. Your feedback, Todd's feedback, Grubby's feedback, even my feedback. By the way, I'm not too bad, okay? I'm like 2050, okay? So I'm not fucking too
What,
fucking
really?
great.
What? I can't find you.
I'm not that bad, okay? I'm okay. But whereas my strength is not necessarily the one that I am at the very highest level of competition, I think I have a very broad view of what many matchups provide, and I try to be neutral about it. But you know, that's the difficulty, like gauging everyone's feedback appropriately. The guys on the forums, the pros in their streams or in their videos, the personalities in the statements they give, and I don't think it's easy to get right. But I think they're doing a decent job trying to get it right, even if chat is telling me that I'm a fucking shill. Honestly, I think they did a pretty good job so far, and I hope, and that's my big fear here, I hope that this is a first big good step in the right direction. I think most of us can agree this is mostly a positive step, and I hope it's the first in a lot to come. Thank you, Neo, Resident Sleeper. I appreciate that.
Oh, you see me? Fuck.
The fear is that this is the last one for a while. But we of course all hope that there's many more to come.
I thought you were an optimistic guy. And also, sorry, I didn't hear anything you said. I was looking at all the accounts with 2050 right now.
I think it's very important to not just do it once on a stream because that's not really accessible. For that to catch as a developer, you got to be really lucky. So put it on YouTube, put it on your socials, make a Reddit thread. That's definitely what they see. Like Reddit is pretty visible to them, I think. Cam is there every day, pretty much. He's answering as well, a couple of threads. Um, so make content that's there to stay. Like it's kind of comparable to like an Insta story is gone in 10 seconds, and that's kind of what a Twitch in one day. I mean, and that's what a Twitch stream is. Like it's really, really hard to follow with what happens on every pro player stream because in the Warcraft community, not too many people create clips, and not too many people, or even fewer people, share clips on hubs. So it's not easy to access pro players' opinions and stuff.
Okay, guys, I think we're all in agreement. At least like this patch brought a lot of good things, so I'm excited for it. Let's wrap things up. If you guys have some final words and some shoutouts to give, now is the time. Let's go with Side first. Thank you for dropping by, my dudes. You were quieter. That's because Remo's talking all the time, but go ahead. Now is your turn.
Oh, okay. Finally. Thank you. Just a quick thank you, Todd, for having me. And shout out to my community that watch me on Twitch. I wanted to give a big shout out to Remo and Neo for what they do for the community. And they've been streaming and casting a lot, and that's really impressive. So thank you, guys.
Cruncher?
Yeah. So thanks for having me on. I enjoy these town halls, and thanks for doing these events as well. I think it's good for the community, for everyone to like talk about whatever the patch, the balance, whatever it is. Learn more about players as well, like it did in the past. Thanks for Remo for writing the patch notes. I appreciate it. Yeah, but also back to Warcraft as well. You know, Neo and Remo. You guys doing DreamHack and everything. I don't know how Neo does like 15-hour broadcasts with all 3 regions. I get exhausted just watching one region, so
You know,
I don't know how you do it.
I say it rarely, but seriously, motherfucking shout out to Neo. You know, he's already not the healthiest with smoking all the time, but he fucking kills himself for DreamHack and everything. Like you guys don't necessarily know, but he is the motherfucking godfather of Warcraft in so many regards. He's also humble a lot of the time, which makes him more likable and less likable at the same time. But he does a lot, and he deserves to brush shit off his shoulders. Shout out to him. And
Damn, he even hijacked the shoutouts.
you know, stay fucking tuned, bitches. All I gotta say.
All right, Cruncher, did you want to add anything?
No, I think I said everything.
Your team, I think your team manager always wants to get shoutouts. How about him?
Oh yeah, thanks to Carson for running Dust.
Oh my god, that's so perfect. Oh my god. All right, Remo.
Guys, thanks all for tuning in. I hope we're gonna have more town halls in the future. Really like this format. And to echo Cruncher, fuck you, Ricky. No,
All right, guys.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Ricky, I love you. But
He's gonna
Okay.
cry again, Remo. Don't be
I
so
know.
harsh.
I don't know
Ricky,
why.
come
Ricky, I
on.
love you. We all love you.
We like you, Bidu. You're a douchebag.
Big
but
love.
You're
Big
our
love.
douchebag.
Big love.
Okay, actually, I'll go next. Shout out to you guys for joining me. We had a lot of people as well today. Thank you for the hosts. Much love to everybody. And yeah, Neo, I kind of need to get on that train. Like everybody's praising you, but I was super impressed during DreamHack because after doing Europe, I was tired. When I had to do Europe plus Asia, I thought I was tired. And then you still did NA after that. So I don't know how the fuck you do it. But I guess Monster has like more effect on you than it does me. And so massive shout out to all of you, like Neo, but also you guys, like Side, Cruncher, Remo, like you guys are part of what makes the Warcraft 3 community great, in my opinion, and I love all of you. And you did this to me in every DreamHack show, but now you got the final words, Neo, motherfucker, because this is my show.
Fuck you, Todd. It's really cute of you guys. Of course, obviously, I couldn't do this without you. It's always fun. It's always energizing and entertaining and inspiring to be with you. And I mean, even with Bidu, like he's energizing. Even if he gets a lot of shit, like he brings something to the cast. It's awesome. I got a lot of amazing words today, and yeah, I don't know. The scene is amazing. There's really cool people. The players bring the best games at the moment. I was super impressed with summer and fall and what the Asians do. It's an amazing time to be a Warcraft fan. That's thanks to you guys. So, good night.